We are live. Thank you, everybody. I hope everyone is excited. We have Gaines here. We have Littyyy Bro Flacko joining me today. My name is Holden Stephan Roy. Welcome to Bridge the Cap. And as we have discussed, we like to start this off with Littyyy Bro Flacko walking through the origin of how this all came to be. So why don't you take that away, Mr. Flacko?
Facts. I'm gonna take it away from you because you're tripping all over yourself today. I don't know what's going on. It's all right.
I did it last week too. It was the same thing with your name.
We'll figure it out. I'm Littyyy Bro Flacko. That's my co-host there, Holden, Stephan Roy. Our guest today is Mr. Gaines. Well, Gaines, excuse me, correction, Gaines. A good friend of mine, Gaines.
Hey, Gaines, baby.
The way that this started, right, was I was putting out a project and I was just doing my usual stuff. The engineer that mixed down the project, he's from Montreal, right? And he's so he never really promotes people who he works with and whatnot, but he just so happened to promote my stuff. And Holden came across it, and Holden does album reviews. And so he did an album review, and then we talked about doing an interview, and we did an interview. And that interview was fucking fantastic. It was maybe the we lost him for a second there.
Yeah, it did look like we lost him.
We lost him. But I'll keep the story going for the people who, right?
Keep it running.
So the interview was so good. The interview was so good that I said to myself, I was like, you know what? I gotta bring my other homies to this man's platform and have them interview with him because all these years I've been doing interviews and it's just so many generic hip hop questions, right? For me, because of doing battle rap for a few years there with Grind Time, it's generic hip hop questions mixed with generic battle rap questions, right? And it's just the worst. And so after sitting down with Holden, it was yo, I hadn't felt that feeling of it was so gratifying to tell my life story before hip hop. You know what I mean? Before meeting you even, right? And you met me when, I was pretty, we were young pups back then. So did that. And I was just I came to Holden. I was yo, we should do an interview series together. I'll bring some people to you and we'll sit together and you interview them. You do that special thing that you do. And it's been a fantastic series, yo. And I'm really looking forward to this because we met at a particular time in my life that a lot of people don't know me from. And so I'm looking forward to getting to know everything about you that I didn't get to know back then, and then catching back up to when we met, and then hearing the rest of the journey since then. So, yeah.
Yeah, so it's honestly a pleasure to have you here. So typically the show's called Bridge the Gap because we like to take, as we call it, super smart people such as yourself and walk through your life a lot and kind of delve into the story of how you got to be the person that you are today. And with that, I have a bit of a typical first question I like to start with to get the ball rolling a little bit. So my girlfriend's washing the dishes. She's bumping this Black Eyed Peas song. I'm thinking about how music's kind of shifting through time, right? How all of the different club sounds of today and whatnot. These things in 10, 15 years, they're going to be dishes music. They're going to be gym music. So people are going to have little kids that are going to be running around while the Cardi B songs are playing in the kitchen. And that's just the future of things. It's not an uncertainty. It's how music works with us with the vibes. So that got me thinking about our own musical journeys and stuff. And a lot of times when people discuss musical journeys, they focus on when we start getting into it or when we start getting interested in it, which often takes place at places, the more puberty-esque eras when we start getting our own identities in life. But I know that that's not necessarily the beginning of anyone's musical journey, because the beginning of it is really all the sounds that existed in the environments where you were raised when you were super duper young, 4 or 5 years old. So effectively, for myself, when I'm like 4 or 5, my dad's got all these tapes playing with all this Led Zeppelins, and there's different techno musics on the radio at night, and my mom's playing her discos, and all kinds of different stuff is going on. But this kind of serves as like this foundational element to all of the different stuff that would evolve into my life as far as my interest in music went. So I was wondering if you could walk us through a little bit the soundscape of your existence when you were like 5 years old, when you were super young. Like, what did it sound like to be Gaines at that age?
I grew up in a different era. I grew up, right during the crack era, right when bass going into crack era. That's when I remember when I was born. And being a 5-year-old, my mom's always had music playing. So she had records. I wish that I kept those records. I wish that I had the foresight to want to keep those records. Right now, I have about close to 1,400, 1,500 records, and I had more. I had about another 1,000 in storage, and I lost it because I didn't know how to take care of my bills at the time. But I've always had music in my life. When I started playing music at 5, when I was in public school, they had a musical program, and I think that's very important. I started there. It was, where most kids start out with just a recorder. They're just, public school. I started there, and from there, but I always had music around me. At 5, my mom's had, because I kind of started school early because I was a little younger than people, but my mom's made sure I got into school.
So what kind of music was she playing?
My mom's playing all of the, all of the soul stuff, all of the, the Diana Rosses, even when hip hop was starting, because the way I got hit to hip hop was, I remember astutely how my family would play music, and they would make me break dance, and I had to learn how to break dance, and I had to learn how to windmill and learn how to pop lock and all that other stuff. So
for real,
that's where it started.
Dancing.
Well, dancing is, it's part of who I, either the identity of an enabler. You can't dance, you get ostracized. So they made sure I was on point, and it's like that. The barbecue, the uncle's like, yo, do that 2-step. Let me see that 2-step you got. And they're like, oh, that ain't a 2-step. That's not no 2 steps, homie. You got to do a better 2-step than that. So then, we get together, and then, they showed me how to do everything. And then I had cousins who would pop lock, and they was doing something different than what my parents was doing, or my parent was doing, and the people that she was hanging around with, because they were still doing disco dances. And here comes this next wave of people coming who were young that looked like me, and they were closer to my age. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. So like when I saw that and I heard all the music, it had me. I always was boggled by the sounds, like the little noises that they would have. Like, if you're listening to a Michael Jackson song, it'd be a random song, a random note, and that note would take you into a whole nother dimension. So that's how I would move and listen, and that's how I got exposed to music, like by listening to what my mom and people that she had around her would play.
I think it's so cool how like aware and involved into the culture you were from such a young age, and nobody has really talked about being like told you gotta dance or else. Maybe it's come up like once, but I don't really remember that before.
In many black families, it's like if you didn't have, you had to perfect your 2-step. You had to be able to dance, and you had to be able to, but not even be able to dance. They just wanted to make sure you had rhythm. They'd be like, "There's something wrong with that boy. He ain't got no rhythm." It'd be shit like that. You know what I mean?
I was gonna say it's more a common occurrence. I think that you might be forgetting, Holden. Like everybody who mentioned dancing, like Breeze Ever Flowing when he came on here talking about dancing for the family. It's that same type of thing. Literally every time, if
so
your
I just didn't necessarily realize what it was that was being said.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
knowledge nugget shit.
It's to see if you can dance. It's to see where you're at with it. It's super like common, and especially back then. I was gonna say, Gaines, you could testify, right? Like I think that it's just like essentially that Eddie Murphy skit. It got done because that was the temperature of our environments and our culture here in America at the time, right?
Like it was real life. It still
that was real life.
I put my son and my daughter, like, yo, let me see your 2-step. Like, and if your 2-step is off, we're gonna work on it. We're gonna work on it all day. We're gonna work on it until you got it together. So at least you perfected your 2-step, and then we work on the 3-step, and then the 4-step, and then we cha cha cha. And then we show you how to whatever it is. You gonna learn it, but we're gonna do it together. And it's okay and that's where you learn not to be embarrassed amongst people. And then after a while, you learn not to be embarrassed in front of anybody. And then you get the heart to jump on stage and don't give a fuck about what anybody thinks.
Yeah. Big facts.
Yeah, that's an incredible answer. Like, honestly, right off the jump, you're making this very exciting. What about drawing? Were you interested in that when you were in that super young phase of life?
And it's a what?
Drawing or the graffitis or anything in that world?
I didn't realize I didn't realize that when I look at it now, when I look back at it, my culture is hip hop. Like that's my culture. Like my mom's culture might be, real R&B and like, a little bit of disco. Like she was that was a heart of her time. But for me, when I look back at it, hip hop was my culture. I saw the drawings. I would walk through the neighborhood and see graffiti on the wall, and I wanted to write on the wall and write my name. And I didn't know that you couldn't put your real name, and I would write, my real name. And people like, yo, dude, you can't do that. You got to have a tag, homie. Like I didn't have a tag, so I came up with different tags. And as we got older, my tags evolved into, me becoming comfortable with me actually writing K.Gaines and not feeling embarrassed about doing that and being comfortable with it. My first name is almost like Rumpelstiltskin. If you know me, you know it. If you don't know me, you can't call me by that. If you call me by that and you call me on the phone and I don't recognize your voice, I'm going to hang up on you because I feel like you're going to be part of the feds or some shit. So that's how I move. But everything from the DJing, the breakdancing to the beats, to the rapping, to the graffiti, like that was what I lived. Like when I came out, I wanted to be fly like that. I didn't have the money to be fly, but I knew how to put my pants behind the tongue of my sneakers. I knew that, if I didn't have Lee pants, I still tried to make it look like I had Lee pants. Like, that was part of the culture. So I was aware of the graffiti part because I would come out all day and everywhere I went, it would be there, similar to how now there's a lot of graffiti everywhere. It's like this is how I know that there's a problem in New York City because they were adamant about making sure that graffiti didn't take over the neighborhood. But now if you look around, you drive through Manhattan, you drive through parts of Brooklyn, all the stores that are closed, all you see is graffiti right now. And I feel like another round of energy just came back around. I feel like I'm reinvigorated for hip hop, and it's beautiful. But to a lot of people, it's ugly. But to me, it's art. When I look at it, I recognize names. I'm seeing dudes who used to tag like in the late 90s going into the early 2000s. I'm starting to see them coming back out and just throwing up pieces here and there, and it blows my mind. Like, and I'm like, okay, I remember seeing this guy. I remember seeing certain people who I thought passed away because I wasn't like really into the graffiti world, but I recognized the names because I would always drive by and look at or walk by or wherever I was going, and I would see their style, and I would try to emulate their style, and then that would help me with my G's and help me with my A's and I's, and then I would try to find my own style, and it would just, those are just things that I saw that, like, to me, when you look back at it, it was part of my culture and it helped shape me as a person. But when I was young, I didn't realize it, but I was learning from it. I was studying it without even knowing I was studying it,
I definitely know what you mean by that, and I'm really glad you shared that. That was really interesting, especially how you tied it into the now and that resurgence. I've heard a couple of people mention the resurgence, Flacko
I've been
especially.
saying it. I've been saying it heavy, bro. That's why as soon as you said it, I'm like, I smile because I'm like, yeah, yo, it really does. Like everybody says it, right? Like when last year when all the protests were happening again, right? And the cops do the same thing that they do again. And this time they're like, oh, well, maybe we just won't be police officers. And it's like, okay, cool. Like,
we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
We'll be okay. We will still, like, survive. And, like, I seen it. Like, the city has been fine. Yes, there's still going to be your random murders and whatnot, but that happens anywhere and everywhere. And it doesn't really have anything to do with the lack of them being on the streets or their vigilance over us. It's been really reinvigorating, like you said, to the city. And it's beautiful seeing like less of the transplants and more of the natives here.
Yo, the funny part, like I was just having a conversation with a friend, and there's a lot of people who they really will believe that they're New Yorkers because they were here for like 5 or 10 years. But as soon as shit hit the fan, I don't know if we're allowed to curse, but that's going to happen.
You can cuss, say whatever, for the most part.
So like, as soon as shit hit the fan, they skedaddled out of here. And it's like, oh, I'm in Buffalo, I'm in Baltimore, I'm in like different places, and it's like, okay, cool. And now that things is lightening up back, they want to come back and like, yo, I'm back, like, like I never left, I went on a vacation. Like, nah, you abandoned the city and
you abandoned it. Yeah,
you wouldn't have been able to hold it down. Yeah,
you abandoned it. You were afraid. Yeah. You were afraid, and you were afraid of us. That's the way I look at it.
And then you want to come back and act like everything is cool. And I understand it. You came to a place and you felt it was cool because you watched MTV Unplugged, not even MTV, but like what was the thing they had in Times Square? The MTV
TRL.
TRL. So like the TRL situation, like they had the whole TRL thing out there, and that made people want to come out here. They had Sex in the City, and they had all these little gentrifying type of television shows that made people want to come out here. But as soon as it got rough, a lot of them left. And then on top of that, we're not even done through that. People are still hurting. So, the wolves are going to come out. So now you're going to see what real New York is about. And then now they have different narratives going on. So, you take it one day at a time. This is the life that we live. Like I said, I came up during the bass and crack era. This doesn't even faze me.
You're gonna
easy work.
You're like, you're going to be okay. Like I already put up with worse. So if I made it through that, as a child with no actual understanding of how the world works, I'm pretty sure that we're going to be perfectly fine right now.
Exactly. I mean, I got energy that says that we're going to be good. I know that we're going to be all right. I know it's going to be cool. But to see people how they come in and then, shit gets hard, they flee. It's like, you say you want to live in the wilderness. And you go out there in the wilderness, and then it starts raining. You're like, oh, no. I want to go into the house right now. Once it stops raining, I'm going to come back outside, and then I'm going to go back in the wilderness. Nah, the wilderness is the rain. The wilderness is the crime that happens. The wilderness is knowing how to carry yourself in the things. And I have to teach the people that come under me, my little brothers and sisters, my sons and my daughters, and the people that look up to me. I have to give them some information. That's what I try to portray in my music on how to be a better human being and navigate through this world with all the nonsense that we got going on,
Amen.
No, that's a super fresh answer. And yeah, I like the way that you tie things together. You have a really interesting mind, for real. So basically you started young, so you're already getting involved in stuff, but you brought it back to the recorder, and nobody's brought up the recorder. Because I would have remembered, like, I knew what the recorder is. I did that in public school too. So I learned to play all that shit. We actually learned to play that like Celine Dion Titanic song one time in grade 6, and just like anyway.
What did you say, Santanic? What did you say, Satanic? What did you say?
No, the Celine Dion, the Titanic song.
Okay. I thought you say satanic. I was like, I'm out of this, man. I'm not doing this. I'm done with this, yo. I'm finished, yo.
Nah.
You said Titanic. Okay, Celine Dion, she's Canadian, so I get it.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, no, so that was interesting. So you started with the recorder, and you were in a musical program in school, and you basically started your journey there, is what I understood.
Yeah, so you start off with the recorder, and the kids who show some sort of discipline where they are able to play whatever basics that they provide for you to play, they get to go to the next level where now they start these little bands where you can learn how to play flute, saxophone, trumpet, trombone, tubas, and you had to have the right aperture. And they also, it kind of depended, because my mom's, I don't know how she did it, but she set me up in a school that was like one of the top schools in Brooklyn at the time. And by having that, it gave me more options. If it was a regular school, I probably wouldn't have been as involved in it. And the recorder was the first thing we did. And I think all students, they started with that. They watch how the kids play with it. They see if they are actually interested in doing it. Because you don't want to force a kid to do something they don't want to do. And I was like very interested in doing music. So when I did that, you graduate to the next level where you get to learn to play a certain instrument. You can ask that you want to play the trumpet, but if you don't have the aperture to do it, you can't do it. Saxophone, flute, all that other stuff. So, and plus I was a hyper kid, so I wound up getting the drums, and I happen to have a little bit of rhythm. So the drums I was always playing it, and I was always having to keep the rhythm for the rest. And if I was off, I caught hell from my music teacher. His name was Mr. Round, and he was a cool dude. Like when you would walk into class for each person, he would play music as you walk in. So you play like Peanuts for somebody, you play Smurfs for the next person, and you want to walk in, and you would walk in, and you feel like, you know, yo, I got my own little theme song. So it's like having a band behind you, and then
That's
it gives
really
us confidence to do it. Yeah, and kids don't really get that anymore.
No, they don't. Not in no public school in New York City. They don't.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, not. I mean, but the thing is, being part of that program, and you saying like with Celine, like they had you playing that, like we wasn't even playing things like that. That sounds like a complex song. Anything Celine Dion is involved with.
Nah, it was
I was
pretty
playing
basic.
Mary Had a. Oh, I was playing Mary Had a Little Lamb, and some other stuff that was, that little kids would play, like Ring Around a Rosie or something like that, and it was just to figure out if you knew how to play the fingering, if you was, you had breath control, if you could breathe. And so I've always been interested in it. And because I was listening to so much music, I would come in and I always had that little bop and I had the energy. And I guess that's probably why he put me in percussion. What up, Dama?
Yeah, that's fresh though. Honestly, we just had that. We didn't have all the other instruments. I think we had xylophones, but we had that and like very little. So we just played that year over year over year over year.
Real quick though, Holden, notice. These are little subtle nuances, right? Of like talking to a New Yorker. You were asking me earlier where specifically Gaines is from, and I like let you know like he's from Brooklyn. You can now the verification is right there. It's not just the like, Dama's, random popular person, Gaines a random popular person, New York City's underground. No. It has to do with that a little bit, but it's also a Brooklyn thing. Like it's a Brooklyn thing. They're Brooklyn people, so Brooklyn people kind of like, like it's the same way that like I'll know random Bronx people, and people were asking me if I knew Mickey Fax, and I'm like, ironically, out of all the Bronx people that I do know, I don't know Mickey Fax from the Bronx. I know Mickey Fax from the internet, and we've just gotten cool through the internet, right? But like Brooklyn people, that's a very Brooklyn thing that just happened right there. I had no clue that Gaines and Dama knew each other at all. I had no idea.
Yo, Dama's family, yo, she stole my DJ, yo. One time we was in South by Southwest. I was doing a huge ass show. And I was like, yo, where my DJ at? Dama's like, yo, he working for me right now. I was like, yo, what's going on here, yo?
That's amazing.
That's the family right there, yo. She's so big.
The Dama's wonderful. For real.
Mad love, bro. Mad love. I'll give him back to you.
Okay.
Did you just pull a Matrix and just take over?
A little bit. That's all right. This is fun. I'm enjoying this a lot. It's really cool to like just learn that. Like I had to process. I don't know how to identify this thing that just happened, but I know a thing happened, and I don't know what I'm supposed to be looking for in the future to identify anyone from any borough.
Yeah, no, it's hard. You'd have to spend your entire lifetime in New York City, and then there'll still be things that'll happen amongst New Yorkers that you're like, wait, what's happening right now? Why am I in the dark? It happens to me, and I'm a New Yorker, born and raised my whole life. And there's still you go certain places, you're around the neighborhood that you are never around. They're gonna have slang, lingo, even your mannerisms is just different.
It's like if you say what Montreal, I can't say it the way you just told us to say it, but it's like in certain places they might say, hey. Or yeah, or oi. Like depending on what part it is, you as a person who was a native there, you'll recognize it easily, and that's just how, Dom has been part of not even part of it. Like Dom has been an integral part of this whole EO dub thing and everything that we've been doing for like so long that like if you were a part of that community, if you were a part of that era, not knowing her would tell people that you don't really know a lot about EO dub, like that things like that. You know what I mean? Like when we talk in Dutch, I don't know. Do you go by Dutch on here? Like how do you talk? How do people know you? Like what do they?
It's okay. That I don't even like. There's some people that refute. Some of the homies, my best friend, my homies know me since I'm like 17. He's like, your mama named you Dutch. I'm gonna call you Dutch. I'm like, goddamn well, my mama did not name me Dutch. What are you talking about?
Yeah. But I know you from those days. You know what I mean? So
yeah, exactly.
When you have that history and you can see, like, you know where you're from. Like, it's not something like I wouldn't notice it. Like, let's suppose you were talking, Holden, amongst your peoples. There's a lot of people who wouldn't know that you guys can tell where you're from. Like you could tell somebody's from 5 blocks away to 10 blocks away just by some of the slang that they use. You know what I mean?
So I was never cognizant of this phenomenon, and I never looked for it or even was aware that it existed until it was pointed out to me. And so now I'm trying to figure it out in my city, because it's not something I put a lot of thought into how it's broken down. I know that there's certain high schools and regions that did have some slangs and whatnot that happen, but I just think it's interesting because I don't know. Something that I find Montreal is different a little bit than New York is how we have our downtown area, and everything is centered around that. So people do live in places, but you don't stay in your neighborhood. People just go everywhere and intermingle in a big way. So there's a lot less neighborhood slang because people just don't, at least nowadays, aren't so centralized like that. So I'm not really privy to it, but I know a whole bunch of other people that would know exactly what you're talking about from different walks of life and be very aware and definitely co-sign what you're saying. I'm not aware of it though. So to me, it's a fascinating phenomenon, right? And it's it's just interesting to learn about it all. I just wasn't anyway. But so you were in music class learning drums, if I was not mistaken. That's what you were saying.
Yeah. So once I moved past recorder, I moved on to doing the drums, and we would play in New York City. We had something called Brooklyn College, which for a Brooklyn kid from the hood, that was a prestigious college, and it still is for most people. You go there, it holds a little weight. And we would do concerts at this school, and we would play the teachers would give those little plays that all the kids do, and on stage, seeing that the spotlight, it was just a beautiful thing, and that's where I kind of got that bug, being on stage in that rush and learning to play the drums. We would play classical music, so that that's when I started learning about the Mozart and the Bachs, and there were so many people that we would play that, not even that many people that as a kid, we were just learning and we were playing simple stuff. It wasn't really hard, intricate stuff. But as I got older, I would graduate into harder things and start playing more and more percussions, because I wasn't playing full drums. I was playing the snare or maybe the cymbals. Or I had the fucking triangle. I was that kid that just had the triangle and just got to go ding. But I made sure that ding was the best ding ever. So as we we graduate and we would go on to, they would have us play, and if we did better, they would put us in a more advanced class and a more advanced class. And I always wanted to play the saxophone, and I was heartbroken that I didn't get it. And they gave me the drums. And there was this one kid who had a saxophone. His name was Otis. And I was like, yo, this guy has a jazz name. I don't have a jazz name. And I was pissed off about it. And this kid would play the jazz, and I was like, y'all can play better than him. Why don't you let me play it? And the teacher was like, you don't have the aperture. But at the time, I really think that the kid was closer to the school, and his family was a little bit more well off. Mm-hmm. And they didn't trust the fact that I would have a saxophone and that it wouldn't get stolen and that it wouldn't get, sold, because we were going through this epidemic known as, crack and bass or whatever. So I always felt like I lost out on that opportunity. I should probably take sax just to fucking show that fucking bastard he was wrong. But
yeah, I can empathize with the not allowed to take your instrument. I at one point was playing the violin, and I was only allowed to take my instrument home I think maybe 2 times the entire school year for the weekend. It wasn't regularly take it home, practice with it at home. Nah, but it was because that was the early, that era was still, early 90s. It was still,
grimy. First of all, I mean, we should have started this with a beautiful prayer. I know I don't mean to interrupt, but we should have started this with a beautiful prayer that, the fact that we're doing this, and we're doing this especially during, through the dub platform and this platform and all this other stuff. I really, and I like this, the whole thing with how, I just want to say that I want to say peace, and I want to show my major, because we spoke about Dom a little bit. I want to show that I had a beautiful energy, and I constantly be thinking about my dude by his verses. And I just want to send a shout out to him and let him know that I'm always thinking about him, and send it to all the people that are here. Let it be known that this is our guy. You know what I mean?
Facts.
I wanted to start that off, and I think we jumped into it and we had the technical difficulty, and I didn't. But going back to the music, I do believe that it's integral to make sure that we're fucking focused on the people who helped us get to where we are right now, and he's one of those people. And so are you guys for even putting me on this platform, and I thank you.
We thank you for coming through.
Big shouts to Easy.
And yeah, I never met him, but all I've heard is of how significant in him he is. And it would have been wonderful to be able to do this with him one day.
Yeah. Thanks to him, though. You know, like there wouldn't be, the dub wouldn't exist. You know, at this point, I'm willing to venture that the number of like artists that have like, you know, been graced or been lucky, privileged enough to grace EO Dub's home is like well into the like 100,000s, you know, like over 20 years, you know. And like it's like the amount of people that lives have been touched literally directly thanks to Vice's actions along with everyone else who founded EO Dub. Like, yo, and now here we all are continuing that legacy that he wanted us to. So big shouts out to Vice versus always.
Shout out to Prolific.
Shout out to Prolific.
Zoo.
Yeah.
Zoo, what up?
And Nunzio.
And Nunzio.
Yeah, wonderful people, honestly.
Fantastic.
But behind the suit, yo, all right, so how do we get back into this? Let's get back into this motion and keep that energy moving. How we doing? I got a lot of energy, so let's
go.
So yo, I'm not good at keeping track of this. So basically, we just pause and it's all good because I just keep part where we at and we move along with the story and let it all flow the way it's supposed to flow. So I respect the energy thing. You were basically talking about how you caught the bug of performing by playing drums, and then we jumped onto an important topic like looking at how you couldn't take the instruments home, and then a little prejudice related to the violins, or not the violin, saxophone. Flacko brought up the violin. In your case it was saxophone. And that's about where we left off.
Yeah, you know what's funny when Flacko said that is like we didn't have, as I think about it and I go back in that memory, we didn't have a string section. We just mostly had like brass, and so we're more like of a jazz band. So we didn't have the violins. So you know, as for Brooklyn, we were like one of the top. The school I was at, I think, was PS91. It was PS91. It was like one of the top schools at the time, and I had to take a bus for like, you know, maybe 15, 20 minutes, like a regular school, not a school bus, but a regular bus. And, you know, but it wasn't far from home. It's a walking distance, but it was a long walk, and navigating through Flatbush, it was crazy. But not playing the saxophone kind of like made me want to show the teacher that I knew that I can handle the drums, because he almost didn't want to give it to me. And I guess it could have been because I didn't have the discipline at home or the people to make sure that I had the structure at home to make sure I was on point. I don't know. When I think about it, I get pissed off about it. But either way, I got the drums, gave me some rhythm, because I guess I had the rhythm, so I was able to keep a beat. And by doing that, I was able to keep some rhythm. And by being able to keep the rhythm is how I'm able to keep the rhythm as an MC. And when we tie it together to who I am is today, behind the suit, those are the moments that made me who I am now.
Perfect. Which is kind of like why I like going through people's lives like this, because I think that oftentimes these are the parts where we get the best, well, what I call them knowledge nuggets, like the most relatable and interesting experiences, whether it's stuff that you can directly apply to your life or whether it's some shit you can think about if you have kids in the future, because you see the impact of things that impacted youth and whatnot. So with that, it's like really, to me, important to hear about that, like music program, positive influence. This shit adds value and inspired you. That's like the biggest takeaway from that. And as you said at the beginning, it's important for all schools to have this. And that's why, because it can give that sense of inspiration. Like, I'll be real with you, I learned to read sheet music in elementary school. I remember that
Same.
every good boy deserves fudge thing, and then the face for the
Yeah.
things between the lines. And then I learned, I can do it still. I'm bad at it. I'm not fast. It's not like I'm going to go play magically, but if you give me a bass guitar and sheet music, I can pluck individual notes pretty slowly.
Yeah, and if you the same here. Like if you put the sheet music in me, it'll come back to me. It's like these memories are coming back to me. Like I haven't thought about them in a while, haven't been asked about them in a while. So when I think about these moments, I know that if you put it in front of me, give me 6 weeks to to give me anywhere from 3 to 9 months, and I'll be able to play fluently again with no problem, because my brain is already left, right. I'll be able to move my hands and do what I got to do and do what I got to get done. So and because I know I can do that, that helps me with anything else in life. Knowing that anything that you put in front of me, give me enough time, I know I can master it.
I love that you have that. I also find myself like that. I was just talking to Holden about that last week, because I went bowling for the second time in my life, and like the first time was like maybe like 10 years ago. I don't even remember it. But this time I bowled like 100 and something. And like my friends were like, yo, you like, that's really good for your like really your first time essentially bowling and whatnot. I was just like, yeah, I mean, sometimes like it's like that where like I'm lucky enough to be good at something like right off the rip. But like even if I'm not, like I know that I'm going to get good at that thing. All I need is a little bit of time, because that's all it is. It's just a matter of like your mindset with it, you know? Where like you're not gonna let maybe the lack of professionalism at it deter you from having confidence while trying to do it.
I definitely empathize with that as well.
Like I said, empathize. Wow, so good.
I
I feel like I'm on a couch and I should be laying down and like, listen, it all started when I was 4 years old, man. and then we get through the trauma, and then we get to the happiness, and then we became the great K.Gaines.
Sometimes that's what happens. Like I said, I don't actually go very hard on the scripting this. I just look into people, and we just tend to start when you're young and ask the same first question, and then there's like a good second question
where the story goes,
and then everything else is the artist tells me what we need to talk about for like however long it takes.
Did we get to the first question yet?
The first question is basically about the now, and then the second question is basically actually it lined up perfectly.
Hey, are we done with the first question? Are we done with the first question? Or are we back to the? Where are we going? I'm following whatever.
It's just kind of just rolls. This is it. This is the show. We're gonna just go through your life now, and the rest of it's pretty unscripted as far as questions
so wait,
go.
The recorder and all this, we're talking the drums, all this after. What are we talking about? Junior high school, elementary, or high school?
I took this as elementary.
I'm still in public school.
Okay, so
this is still elementary.
Which is why the next question.
In New York.
Sorry, is related to more about like it's usually around the puberty ages, and it is typically when people tend to hear music a little differently. It goes from being like something you do in school, something that's around you, to yo, I heard that song and I love that thing, and it becomes more something you consume as a person that seeks it out rather than it being a product of your environment that's around you. So I was hoping if you could remember that moment, well, if you do remember that moment, you could share what was the original song that got you to become enthralled with music in a different way, or the general sense of songs.
Well, so then for that, I have to go back a little bit, because the first song that really got me, my mom used to play, like, like I said, the family, when we had barbecues and we had like little, outings and, little parties or whatever at the house, they would play their records. So everybody would bring their records. Somebody would be like, well, I got this new this, I got this new that. If it's Luther Vandross, if it's, Diana Summers, like no matter who it was, they would play their new joint, and I would be enthralled by the sounds that I would hear. So I hear the sounds and those blow my mind away. I was always like, wow, what was that sound? And I would always look back and like, yo, could you, like, I almost wanted to have them play it again. And I don't know if scratching was at the time, but I was like, I want to hear it again. And they would be like, okay, he likes this song. Why does he like this song? And when I think about it, it was the sound that got to me that made me like the sound, the song. the singing and all that other stuff, and then seeing everybody get happy when it come on, the energy behind it, the vibe that it would cause amongst the people. Like they might have been talking crap to each other, or like just yelling at each other. And as soon as that song come on, everybody's like, "Yo, not right now. This is my song. We're gonna do that." So the first song that really got me, that I loved all those songs my mom was playing, but it was more the sound. But the first song when I was, I guess, in middle school, which is junior high school, that really got me was The Message. The first time I heard The Message, and I might have not even been in junior high school. I think I might have been a little younger than that because it might have been out before that. But I heard The Message, and when I heard The Message, it was just something about being that I might have been doing drums at the time, or I might have been part of the thing, just hearing the person was rhyming. I was like, okay, cool, that's cool, but the music behind it is crazy. And now, like, okay, there's 3 different things happening, and that's when I started putting things together. The Message was one of the first things that hit me when I heard The Message. And then after The Message, I don't think that I paid attention to the music, but it didn't hit me as much as that did. I loved the hip hop, all that other stuff. I heard all of that stuff, and it moved me, but it didn't move me. But The Message is the one that moved me. But then as I got to past the, playing the drums and all that other stuff, I think that my mother was on her road to finding her God, and by her finding her God, I wasn't able to listen to certain music. And then she didn't want me to listen to anything that sounded bad. It was talking about different things. I'd already heard White Lines, I think. And then when I heard Young MC, I think that was my first tape. No, not even think. I know the first tape that I ever was allowed to buy was, I wanted to hit that Young MC joint. Like, I just, something about just the way the music happened. I just had to have that song, and I had to have that album. And my mom's bought it, and she got it for me, and I played it until the tape popped, and I had to get another one. And then from then on, I started moving in up and up, and I started to escalate in a way to find out more about different types of music.
So how did you...
mind you...
Sorry, go on.
Go
No, go on. Anytime you say mind you, that's good.
Like, being a kid who was listening to, I guess, R&B, like soulful music from back then, listening to from Elvis's to, not even Elvis, I said that backwards, from Marvin Gaye to the Elvis's to, listening to, the Bee Gees to, Aretha Franklin, Diana Ross, like I said before, Dionne Warwick. Like, there were so many different types of genres of music that I was listening to that my mind was already kind of shaped when I stepped into the music class. So that made me feel like I'm talking in retrospect. I don't feel like I'm speaking in the person that I wasn't at that time. But at that time, I'm looking at it, and as I'm going over it with you guys, I'm seeing that it helped shape me.
But that's kind of like totally fine. I feel like most of us understand that, like, you're doing your best to be as objective as is possible while remembering decades ago. So it's totally...
It was last week, man. I'm a young cat, man. Don't try to make me
Understood. Last week. But, like, basically, though, the immaculate level of the detail that you have is pretty stellar, actually. So, like, it's so cool to hear you describe it like it's a movie that you're kind of watching in your head and just kind of giving us the details of. Like, it's nifty to me.
I want to get to what you're, like, so once you already, right, the Message happens. Now we got to school, right? You did the recorder, you did the drums. I want to get to like that, like right around like junior high school age, and like what you're into.
Yeah, that's basically what comes next.
Junior high, like when I'm in middle school, I was pretty much, like I said, my mom was finding her religion, so I wasn't able to listen to as much music. So the music that I was getting exposed to was the people that was around me. But mind you, I lived in Flatbush, which is a part of Brooklyn. You might not be aware of that, Holden, but it's part of Brooklyn where... Huh?
I like the Flatbush Zombies. They're
Flatbush Zombies. I mean, Flatbush Zombies are from that area. So Flatbush and Brooklyn, mind you, Brooklyn, I feel like is the heart of New York. anybody from the Bronx or anybody from Queens would beg to differ, but that's a different thing. But Brooklyn, Brooklyn is a place where Brooklyn is a place where there was so many different cultures. So you had Park Slope, which was predominantly white at the time. Then you have Red Hook. Then you have Bed-Stuy, Crown Heights, Flatbush. You have East New York, Brownsville, all these different places, and they had different cultures. So Flatbush was, if you come in Brooklyn, as soon as you come off the bridge, you in Flatbush. The real Flatbush people, the real Brooklyn people, to tell you in Flatbush, because Flatbush goes from one end of coming from the Manhattan Bridge all the way to the other end of Brooklyn, where it goes into Queens. Not even Queens. Yeah, it goes into Queens, almost damn near Long Island. And Brooklyn is when they say the melting pot, Brooklyn was absolutely the melting pot. You can go to what do they call you can go to Sheepshead Bay and it would be nothing but Italian. So you can go into any neighborhood and it would be nothing but an ethnic group. You can go into, we like to call Little China today. Somebody might be upset about it, but who gives a fuck? But you can go in there and you would see different cultures. So, and where I was at, you were around Jamaicans, Trinidadians, you was around Barbadians, you was around Guyanese, you was around, Bohemians, you was around Americans
Asians
who were born in Bajans, you was around so many different people. I said Barbadians, my fault, but Bajans, but so many different people around that I was able to pick up on all of these different cultures. So when I went to middle school, it was more in the heart of where I lived at, and where I went to public school, the elementary school, was a little bit further. So when I get to middle school, I'm in a place where I'm just soaking up different energies. I'm just soaking up, not even soaking up energies. That sounds weird, but I'm just soaking up different cultures. I'm like,
doesn't sound weird.
No, actually, the soaking up energies thing, I was
like, no, exactly
I didn't even think twice. Honestly, I personally fucks with your energy perception thing. I believe in the energy things. I believe we emit
absolutely.
energies.
I'm heavy on the energy
as I get more
style as well. So
cognizant and knowledgeable of the greater things in life, I feel like you can really detect energies you like and dislike, and you should trust that instinct in yourself, right? So the way that you're saying that you were aware of it, so maybe you weren't aware of it back then. Maybe that's yourself today, now going back then, but today and now hearing it, it makes all the sense in the world to me.
Yeah, I would hang with certain people and being around them, I would pick up certain things, either just mannerisms and just how they handle themselves. And even to this day, sometimes people where I'm living at now in Bed-Stuy, and I grew up in Flatbush, when I speak to people, they address me as Dread. I'm like, yeah, what? But I did have a lot more hair and all that other shit. They address me as Dread, and it's because I picked up some of the accents hanging with these people. It's just through osmosis that it would happen. And that would happen anyway. If you drop a 10-year-old kid or 5-year-old kid in the middle of Mexico, he's gonna have an accent. He might still speak English, but he's still gonna have he's gonna learn a lot of different things. If you put him in Montreal, he's gonna have, hey, what's going on? Guy, better, different things. So
he's gonna speak French.
I do think that was integral. Or speak French, one of those two, or patois, whatever you want to say. But I was surrounded by people. In middle school, I went to middle school that they didn't have much of a music program, but I had a principal. Her name was Sister Muhammad, and I went to Jackie Robinson. I think it was IS 390 or 320. So I think it was 320. Can't remember. And that's where I got my understanding of who I am as a black person in America, as a black man in America. I don't want to even say it like that. As a black man in America. And Sister Muhammad, she would walk around with, the garb on and everything, and she made sure that the kids that was in that school, they had the right teachers to teach them the right point of view to understand who they were as a human being in this world that we live in right now, that we're constantly talking, not even constantly, but the one that we're talking about right now. And through that, I was able to, to this day, she would make us watch something like the Emmett Till story. She would make us watch movies that about, the white guy, the black guy, the Jewish guy who died in Mississippi. It's called Mississippi Burning. And as a young kid, it scared the fuck out of me. When I look back at, like, to this day, like when I watch Mississippi burning, it just gives me something that makes me want to go out and do something wild to protect people, to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And she made sure I was conscious and aware of who I am as a person. And at that school, I learned who I am. That's where, like, I learned how to stand on my own too. I learned how to fight for myself. And, you know, we used to have, that's back in the days in middle school, was when we had Decepticons, we had TLR, where we had different little games. We had the low lives. We had all these different people, and I was young, still trying to, like, be down with those cats, but I was still young. I was too young, but they were robbing people, and they were, you know, doing all this other stuff. I was getting robbed at one point in time in middle school, and that's where I learned to say, you know what, nigga, I ain't never getting robbed again. I'm gonna fight back. And I had crazy cousins who was down with that life, and it was like, if you want nobody to bother you, got to step your game up. And I would step my game up, and I would learn how to, you know, do different things. So in middle school, I wasn't really, going back to your question, I really wasn't focused on music. I was trying to survive and not get robbed and get, you know, fucked up. And I was smart, and I was trying not to get, you know, labeled as a nerd, and I didn't want to get bothered by the people who was around me. So, like, being back then, being a nerd wasn't cool. Back then, being, like, smart wasn't cool. So you had to teeter-totter in between either being a thug or either it was going to be a thug or you was going to be a nerd. I was able to walk that beautiful thin line because I had knowledge of who I was, and I had the right people around me. And, you know, even though the people that were supposed to be in my life, a lot of them wasn't there, I still was able to choose the right people to make sure that they were there, you know?
That's seventh. So we're talking about 7th, 8th grade, right?
This is 7. Yeah, this is so using public schools would be 6th to 7th or 8th grade, and then you go to high school. But my public school, because it was a good school, they kept us an extra year. So I stayed into 6th grade in my school, and then I only did 7th and 8th grade. So you're right. So I only did 7th and 8th grade in middle school, and there, like, I learned a lot. Like, the people that was there, like, I don't think that when I was in public school, I didn't realize it, but in a public school that was supposed to be a good school, most of the people that I had didn't look like me. Most of the teachers that were mine didn't look like me, so they didn't give me any self-reflection. They didn't give me any sense of self. So when I went to middle school, the sister, or the principal, her name was Sister Muhammad, she gave me a sense of self. And that's where I think I cut my teeth. So music wasn't much as involved, but I learned a lot more other skills about knowing who I am as a person. So that's what happened in middle school. But I was always listening to music. So then,
so I have a question about that. So firstly, just thank you for sharing this stuff. Personally, this is the dream. This is like the perfect version of this show, how it goes down. People sharing all kinds of stuff that people can listen to and become better people after hearing, bridging gaps. It's amazing. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, I mean that. But how are you, like, learning new music? Because I grew up in the household where my parents were super religious and nothing with the word fuck in it and a bunch of other stuff. And it was all through internet at school was where I learned music. So given that you probably didn't have as easy access through internet, etc., how did you get new music at that time during middle school? Like.
Well, so you grew up during the internet. It's a beautiful. I grew up during when you either had to have the physical copy, or you would hang with your friends and they would play music and you would hear it there, or, you know, just listening out the window, somebody's playing music, or just somebody's like, yo, you heard this new song, and you still had the radio. So the radio would play, like, and at the time, if you was smart enough, you would stay up later in order to hear the real music that you wanted to hear. So I wasn't. My mom, she kept a tight lid. She was pretty religious because she had found her God at the time, and she was very strict about what we listened to. So, like, you know, like, I guess they would call it secular music. She was kind of trying to be careful and to guard us, and trying to guard us from what she thought was something that was, you know, bad. But to me, it wasn't bad. Like, I heard it. Like, right now to this day, there's certain songs that I hear, and I don't hear the words. Like, most of the time I hear a song and I'm hearing just the melody. I'm hearing just the rhythm. There's certain songs. I'm going through a thread on Instagram right now by this person named Jay Slayer, and Jay Slay, and she is talking about Mariah Carey, and I'm listening to Mariah Carey totally different now because I had no idea what she was saying, and I just love the melodies, the rhythms, the patterns that she was going, and how she was waving through certain melodies. And when I listened to the music, I was able to listen to music because I had the right people around me, the people that were supposed to be around me. Like I had dudes in the hood, I had dudes that was down in the street. They have their boom boxes downstairs. They'd have their cars blasting, and of course, we'd ride to go somewhere, and my mom would play music. She, inadvertently because she was still trying to be a good person over here, but she still had music that she was listening to over here. So I would still capture certain things. I wasn't catching all of the hip hop. It took me a minute. Like I said, my first album I ever bought was Young MC. That should tell you something. Like I used to be embarrassed by it. I'm okay with that. Some people like, my first album I ever bought. Yeah, but some people like my first album was NWA, and I'm like,
yeah.
Like, I would probably been like, who knows where I would have been if NWA would have been my first.
My first CD was gifted to me. It was Salt with a Deadly Pep.
No, but
that's a hard album to have for the first.
But it's nifty because like
but I've had cousins.
I know that Young MC.
I'm not like I look back at all that stuff, and I think that all of them have like a particular there's something to be complimentary about with literally everybody who had a big hit back in the days with hip hop. Like all of them had a positive contribution in one way or another.
I know is.
I'm sorry, bro.
I just for that first Young MC album, all I know is I reviewed that album, and it is freaking good. And I don't understand. I understand in hindsight, like why people think the way they think about it. But if you objectively put that on today, it's a really good album.
I bet you if you put it on today, most of the songs people would still dance to and start doing some of the moves that goes to it. Like as a kid. You're trying to keep your stripes on, like, yo, I listen to the hardest song out, blah blah blah. But that at that time it was like that the bust the groove, like bust the move, like that was like it was just a melody about it. Like I just loved the energy of it. I was like, I want that, I want that, I want that. My brother, who's a couple years younger than me, was able to get something totally different. He had something that was more advanced and had more intricate things. But in middle school, that's where I just was like, okay, cool. I had to figure out who I was as a person. Still listen to tons of music. I had cousins who would play music. They were able to get music, and that's another way I was able to consume music. I would go by their houses and they'd play some stuff, and I'd be like, play it again, play it again, play it again. It's like, yo, dude, we played it like 15 times. No, just give me one more time. And I would just hit a melody, and then that would influence. When I look back at it in hindsight, it would influence how I listen to music now and how I write to music. I played a billion times until I can't stand it anymore, turn it off, put something else on for a billion times, and then go back to that if there's something that I feel like I haven't reached yet. And that's how I figure my mental antennas go up into the sky and into the world, and that's how I connect to the universe by being constantly open and available to hear different things and find different patterns in this world,
I love it. Honestly, it's really interesting. Especially that idea of re-listening to your own music till you hate it again. Multiple people have told me that this is a very good quality control method to ensure that you only release the quality of music that a guy like you has released. And I say that because, for real, your music is that good. Like it's a timeless. You can just replay it over and over and over and over and over and over again. A lot of people could do a lot of things with music. But I don't know how many people can make 7 tracks in a row that are all replayable over and over and over again. That's a feat. That's like from an album reviewing perspective, that's a fucking feat. That's like achievement unlocked type stuff.
I can't wait to send you my album so that you can give me you're probably going to get the album early before everybody else, so you can give me a review of it. Like, I love to hear people's feedback. I think I sent you 2 songs that no one's heard before, like that. Like, I'm planning on releasing pretty much in the next couple weeks, so not even a couple weeks, within the next month or 2. And it's not even mixed, and I sent it to you guys. And I love to send it out to people early and get their review. Like, even though to me even though to me your opinion matters, it doesn't matter. You know, your opinion doesn't matter to me, but it does matter. By the way, I want to shout out my dude. He has this beautiful game out called Your Opinion Doesn't Matter. I'm gonna plug it on my Instagram. So if you follow my Instagram, you'll be able to see it. I don't know if I should talk across different medias, but he got this dope game where you have a discussion about whatever. It could be about candles, liquor, ice. It could be whatever. You have to be able to argue from both points of view. So either you hate ice or you love ice. Either way, you have to be able to do it. If you hate ice, you still got to talk about if you love it. If you love ice, you got to talk about if you hate it. Because your opinion doesn't matter. So back to my music. Your opinion doesn't matter, but it matters. I like to hear what people believe, what they think, because it helps shape my idea. I try not to have a place where I can only see one dimension. And I can't, you know, people suffer through cognitive dissonance a lot. I'm the type that I say, okay, cool, I can hear what you're saying, and I can help that shape me. So that's how I approach my music. And I don't know how I got here, but I'm here now.
It's good. I like that you said cognitive dissonance. I swear that's a buzzword of my life lately. So I appreciate that. I'll review your album. That sounds real good. I'm 100%.
I'm gonna make sure you get it, yo.
And I said that live on the internet, which means now I have to do it. Otherwise, I'm not a very honorable person.
Facts. I'm gonna let you know what I think of those 2 tracks.
No, for real, they're really good. No, like my guy popped up in the chat as you said that. He's like, they're fire. Like, for real. Somebody popped up on the YouTube and was like,
he did.
Flow is impeccable or something like that on the unmixed one that you sent. Not the one with all the story elements, but the other one. Like, there's one that has a lot of dramatic elements in it, and one that's more of like a constant flow. The one that like says, "You're like my thoughts will fuck you up," basically, or get you. I don't know. I'm not quoting you correctly because
the change in protocol is the one that's like more dramatic. Like when you listen to it, I try to make it more like an audio visual type of a thing, like where you listen to it and hopefully if you're in the right state of mind, that you can see the movie.
I did.
For the other one, for the other one, which is called I'm having a blank right now, but the other one is called.
Yeah, I have it over there somewhere. The other one is called Take Lesson.
Yeah, Take a Lesson. So I'm in the process. I don't know if I'm renaming it. So I actually changed it to something else, but I call it Bovid. That's what it's called. Instead of COVID, it's called Bovid. And I say a line in there where they treat you like mindless Bovid. Like before you catch me, you catch COVID. They treat you like a mindless Bovid. And I went with the name Bovid, but I like the word Take a Lesson because the producer's name is Crew Jones, aka Steve Bryant. He's a person who made the beat, and I heard it. He's one of a friend of mine, and he plays crazy drums. And I told you I always follow drum patterns. And his drum pattern was so insane on it that as soon as I heard it, my brain was like, do not leave this beat. Like, play it on Instagram 100 times. See if you can steal it through, like, a downloader and just keep playing it because there's a pattern that you got to figure out right now and you got to play it. So with that one, I was on a mushroom trip in California, and I was fucking high as fuck on a mountain, just, like, climbing somewhere, just walk. Like, not a mountain, but, like, like doing, like, a trail. And I was just looking at bluebirds and woodpeckers and hoping I didn't get, bit by mountain lions. I got 2 knives in my hands and I'm wilding out, but I'm just listening to this beat, walking on a horse trail, just wilding out and what is that place called? Griffith Park, and just wilding out and just having a good time. But that whole thing was where my mind was at the time, and I just go with my thoughts and go with my vibe. I was fucking fucked up on that shit. That was my first time doing that shit too. I don't feel like I was fucked up because I smoked mad weed and drank mad liquor, so I don't feel like I was super fucked up, but I think I was staring at a tree for like a good fucking 30 minutes.
I know what that feels like a little bit. I once went to a grocery store on mushrooms and stared at these things. I remember the pastries and they were swirling. I don't actually know how long I sat there and stared at them, but I know the grocery people were not happy with me.
They're like, hey, buddy, you buy or you go buy?
But I buy. I was like, oh, okay. And then I just buy.
Yeah, so, but
I asked 7th or 8th grade, right? Because
so we cleared the 8th grade part.
But I asked that because I got to know you right when you were out of high school, right? So like the person that I got to know, like when you say that she empowered you like that, like I'm like, wow, okay, so that explains to me where a good chunk of the person that I got to know back then might have actually came from. You know, so like I kind of want to like make a line through all that, but I really want to ask another important question, right? Which is something that like knowing as a New Yorker, knowing that Brooklyn is the heart of the city, right? I know how much all of you essentially go to school with fellow luminaries. At any of these points through elementary or middle school, are you meeting any poison pens or I don't know, pH? Who have you come across any of these people yet? Are you starting to meet people who are maybe rapping? Are you starting to rap yourself?
And when I was through kindergarten to eighth grade, no, none of these. I was straight. I was a nerd. All I had was people around. Like when I got to like middle school, like I said, I was a straight, pretty much nerd. I was in the top of the class. I was doing all that other stuff. I had a cousin who was a wild cannon. He kind of gave me my chops on how to deal with the people that were like out there getting people. Like I lived in an era, like I told you, like when it goes back to eighth grade, I there were people from Decepticons, TLR, which is the Little Rascals, and a whole bunch of other cats that would come to these different middle schools, which is what I was in, and they would rob the kids and take whatever they wanted from them. Oh, you got a dope book bag, you got these sneakers, you got this polo, whatever. This is during robbing time. This is not during, like, yo, did you hear the latest album time? This is during survival time. So we're going to rob whatever we want. Like, you got dope sneakers? Give me those or you can get hurt. I'm at the time where all the gangs would line up in different, like, because a lot of the middle schools were in, like, certain sections. They would line up and go, all right, all you motherfuckers stand there and you're going to wait here until we get time to rob you because we're robbing these other 10 people over here. You're going to wait over there. And we were so scared that we would, we'll wait. So then we go to, okay, cool. My cousin was like, he was like one of those gangster cats. I was like, yo, you're not going to help me? He's like, nah, you better help yourself. And once I figured out you got to help yourself, that was another learning lesson. I wasn't listening to music then. I didn't have time to listen to music. I was trying to survive, not getting robbed. So then I got to the point where I got fed up getting robbed, where I said, okay, cool, these I'm going to, because I didn't have that male mentorship to show me how to deal with this life. So then, okay, cool. Now that happened, now I got to stand on my own too. My cousin was like, yo, if you don't fight, you're gonna get sink or you're gonna swim. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna swim. If I'm dealing with sharks, I'm gonna swim. If I'm in the jungle, I'm gonna learn how to hunt. So I thought I wanted to join a gang, and then I figured out that I didn't want to join a gang. And once they tried to jump me in, and they had some shit called flapper style. Follow crazy. But because I was in a different part, like close to Crown Heights, the flapper style that they had, they didn't know I knew flapper style. So when I was like, yo, I want to get down with this gang or whatever the gang was called, they're like, yo, you got to fight. And they had me fight this one guy, his name, whatever his name, it doesn't matter. And he tried to fight me flapper style, but he didn't know that I was, already proficient in understanding the language of the fighting style. So when he did this, I said, bang, bang, bang. And when I did the bang, 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 they said, okay, this kid is not to be messed with. But then after that, they jumped me. So then after they jumped me, I figured out, okay, cool. I don't need to be with cats who don't really know me, and I just want to be down with them for whatever reason. So then I said, okay, I'm never going to do it again. So I always have been a solo cat, and that's where I learned who I was as a person. The people that I met didn't happen until high school. What I was influenced by at the time, Big Daddy Kane was at a part of Flatbush where I was at, where it was about parade grounds. He lives in one of the opulent buildings around there. I had special ed in the neighborhood. He was in Flatbush. I had different people that I did not know, but I looked up to. I had people who were gang. So like TLR was like a little section in Flatbush that they said they were like a sect of Decepticons. So I was like, trying to be down with them. They was on Westbury. You had these 21st people. You had Church Ave people. You had the Caribbean cats who had their own little gangs and their masters and all that other stuff. So at that time, I wasn't looking for that. I was pretty much in survival mode, trying to figure out how I can get from my home by Prospect Park all the way to a part of Crown Heights without getting robbed, without getting stabbed, shot, and all the things that they projected in the world that said that that's what was happening in the neighborhood. Learned how to be smart and be cautious and be on point, and also be not afraid to fight for what I believed in at that time. So that's what I was going through in middle school. So there was like the people that I met at middle school, none of them are a part. Well, some of them, like there's about 2 or 3 of them who might be a part of my life now, and we on the same AL-like type of shit where we talk business, we talk numbers, we talk money, we talk what we're going to do that's going to make sure that our children live. Those are the people that I still have from that era. Now, when we move from public school to middle school, we go into high school, that's when those other lifelong friendships become part of it. That's where music becomes even more of a role, because I had music still, but music I wasn't focused on. I was focused on surviving.
All right. So then I guess we can move into high school where we can kind of talk.
I don't know if I'm scared, man. This is kind of crazy, man. It's crazy.
No, this is great.
Yo, no,
this is great because
is...
I'm anticipating like it is like watching a movie for me, bro. You know, like when I met you, you know, like you were already, and it was different. That back then, right? Like everybody was getting into the, you know, when we get into the topic of marketing and promotions and hip hop, right? And whatnot. Back then, everybody who was doing it was street teaming. You were the slap a sticker. You were not the position that you had. You already had an elevated position back then. You know?
Yeah.
So like that like it speaks to me, and when I look back at like all the people that like were around back then in my life, there was a huge like influence that like you all got to have over me. And I'm privileged and blessed to have had you guys impart all that knowledge that you all had, right? And so like I walked into the world as a young man way more ahead of people, even though I had weapons I didn't even know that I had, right?
Yeah.
But like this is just like knowledge and things that I wasn't even ready to understand fully. And then you get older and you grow into those shoes that you weren't ready to wear yet. And so, like, it for me, this is very, very, very interesting. So please continue. High school.
Yeah,
I would definitely say it's also super interesting. Like, I don't know. To me, this is it. This is why I do this over and over again. Like, I learned so much already from you. You've already given us so much. To me, it's all a gift, right? Like I said.
Thank you, Connie. Thank you.
So for me, I can't wait to hear about high school. And then I got to talk to Poison Pen. So like I got to hear his story one time.
Yo, shut it down, motherfucking Poison Pen. Yeah, our history is crazy. I love that motherfucker, yo. So, I bet you $5 he don't even know this is happening right now, but yo, I love that. He's in hindsight, he gonna know it. This shit is beautiful. That's my fucking family. Like yo, we might not see each other for fucking like 6 months, and then when we do see each other, guess what? It's like, what up? How you been? You good? You missing anything? How can I help? Can we help? Can we do anything? No? Cool. Boom. What's up? Let's go get a drink. That motherfucker still owe me a bottle of Jameson, by the way. Make sure you point that out to him. If you're going to do any type of highlight clip, send him that. You owe me a bottle of Jameson. When we did the Sean P joint, I stepped away for a second with a big bottle of Jameson, and you walked away with it. We got to talk about that.
I love it.
I'm
gonna take one of his shoestrings or some shit.
That's very legit for Poison Pen. That's a very, you just told a very Poison Pen story.
I love it. This is so good.
I love it.
So I guess in high school, all I know is I saw that video and you said you were banging on lunch tables. So you were evidently in some way involved in stuff. So tell us how you got, like, you know, high school starts, and I guess your pacing is perfect. Whatever you're doing, just keep doing it. You're just doing it perfect by yourself.
Appreciate it. Yo, how about we do this, yo? I feel like I'm meeting you for the first time. We're gonna get back to this question of high school. Holden, tell me something about you. I'm gonna go get some ice real quick. I'm listening in my headphones, and I want to hear a little bit about who you are as a human being. How did this start? How did we get here?
So how did this
Refill
start?
your drinks.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can easily answer that. Basically, in 2016, well, I started music in 2012, and I would argue we wouldn't have had this conversation if you met the 2012 me, just on the energies I had in life. I was still figuring things out, etc. So I started making music, and I started getting involved in the scene, and I've always been curious. I always wanted to know. I never really fit in, so my coping mechanism is to acquire knowledge as much as possible, because via knowledge you can at least maneuver more effectively and maybe not annoy people, etc. So then as I went on, I just kind of realized things weren't working. Nothing I was doing was working. And I realized the internet is an interesting place. So I started doing album reviews because I didn't understand hip-hop at all, right? Like, I come from Montreal. It's not like the same thing growing up here. It isn't. It's like, to us, it's a music genre until you realize it's more than that. So I proceeded to start reviewing album after album, and then I get butchered on the internet for a year. I argue with people for a year, and then I started deciding to like read books. So in 2018, I started reading on this quest with this mission to read 60 books a year. I did not succeed in that year, but I ended up reading The Gospel of Hip Hop by KRS-One, where it was like.
First of all, if you only did 60, how many books did you read for the year?
That year I read 31.
That's a lot for a year. You did a good job. I read about
great job.
2 in the last 4 years.
Fresh. Spoilers. I hit the 60 in 2020. It's the highlight of my life is reading 60 books in a year.
Spoilers.
That's what it is. But that's the highlight of my life is reading 60 books in a year. I've never done anything. I don't know that I can achieve that again. Like, that might be it. That might be the one-off. I know, but like priority-wise and focus and actual desire to, like, I don't know that I'm ever really going to have that desire to read 60 books on some prove myself, because I did it. I don't know. Maybe I'll do 100 if I ever get there, but that's like that's a lot of time. Sometimes you have to evaluate the time.
And you're here now.
That's it. So I read a lot of books, but the gospel of hip-hop taught me that, like, if you give back to your community, and you give back was the big thing, people will take care of you one day. And I didn't know that before that. That was a big pivotal thing to take away. So I started. I didn't know how to do anything with that in my life, but it ended up getting to interviews. I said I can talk and I can interview people, and at least continue this learning thing in a more tangible way, right? Because like doing album reviews is like reading books. You can go so far with it, but at some point you need that like human connection thing. And then I started just doing the interviews, and along the way I talked to this guy named Preacher Kobia, and I realized that he spent 2 hours describing Montreal's hip-hop history from 1996 to 1999. And I didn't know that there was that much history we're talking about that could fill 2 hours, and it made me realize that in my entire life, at least in maneuvering within my city, the lack of data and information available towards understanding what Montreal has done had kept me from taking a sense of pride in the history of my city. And so I became driven with this passion to write a book in a decade that will effectively take the interviews I do there and turn them into a history book to give people a sense of pride in what we've done. And then I met Flacko. And then he brought me into battle rap land, where it's like, yo, let's do this here. And then, well, I mean, not effectively battle rap. It started with End of the Week, but it's kind of evolved like that.
We do both. You'll see. I mean, you've seen a majority of the guys that I'm connected to from battle rap. They come from an era where we just did everything because that was just what we had to do. It's not that we wanted to be battle rappers. We just did. We got in where we could fit in, and some of us ended up planting our roots and our seeds in that battle rap arena, and that blew up and had popularity. So it's like, why would you abandon something that you helped cultivate and create? But it's really just brothers, you know.
Honestly, I'll talk to pretty much anyone, Because, if you try to find information on people from, like, a Wikipedia page point of view, like, the good stuff, the stuff we want to know, like that you played drums in high school or whatever school, that you played drums.
Yeah, but
okay, that's the cool shit that, like, people sometimes just
Well,
would love to know.
Our first interview together, both you and me, was Nunzio, and he's an engineer.
Yeah.
So,
it was
like,
brilliant.
we're trying to interview people
Anyway.
who got, like, knowledge to spread.
Yeah.
And, like
to me, it's like you're like
story to tell the world.
And the most attractive thing to me about you as a person is that your energy is what it is, being this long in the game. That's that's nifty. I can learn from that as a person struggling with jadedness in corporate Americas and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I think that to be a person like that, like it's a beautiful thing. It's one thing to figure out that you want to understand what this culture is about. Like, a lot of people don't realize it. Like, a lot of people see it as just music, right? At one point in time, rock and roll was a culture. Like, to live a rock and roll life, you had to have a certain vibe. They found out that shit would either kill you quickly or have you fucking strung out on some crazy drugs. So it adjusted. It moves different. So rock and roll is totally different from now. But hip hop and rap, like, rap is a form of hip hop. Rap is a subculture. Or rap is the rap that we listen to now is a subculture of what the original culture was. It's what the new generation interprets it as, and that's what's going to happen. It's either going to be diluted or it's going to be there's going to be some sort of power behind it where it's going to push it forward, where it's going to be some sort of machine behind it. So we're in a place where the music that we make, the things that we've been through in order to make the music, like from being like the whole battle rap, like like not even battle rap, like this battle rap became another subculture, like of hip hop. It was another branch on the hip hop tree, and it's always and rap is a branch on the hip hop tree. DJing, you know, somebody who's a historian, that's a branch on our tree. Like, it's a beautiful thing that we need these things to keep the culture moving forward. So when people speak to me, like, I have a beautiful friend who is a client of mine, and she's just watching, like, I guess I forgot the name of it. It's on Netflix about hip hop or whatever, and she's asking me who's my top 5, and she doesn't understand how extensive a top 5 is. You say top 5 from this era, this era, this era, this era.
Yeah.
You say top 5 of all time, top 5 against this person. There's so many different subgenres that you have to play with that to do it during text would be very hard to figure out. And I said, listen, once you finish watching whatever movie you're watching, tell me what context you want to talk about top 5, and we can do that. And that's where I have to deal, especially in my neighborhood now, from Bed-Stuy to Flatbush or anything else. When I speak to people, I have to say, okay, how involved are you into this culture? Like, are you an observer? Are you one of those people who will come and watch it, and as soon as shit get hard, you run out of it? Or are you in it to be in it? So I take what we do as a person. I try I don't think I can be jaded, because I can never. To be jaded means you're bored. I think that I find new ways to understand other people's understanding, if that makes sense. To understand people's understanding of how they perceive hip hop. And I don't know. I just think that, I'm always interested in seeing how people move and how they think, and I think that influences how I can approach a song. Because when you first start, you approach a song this way. Then you figure out, maybe I can approach it this way. Then you're like, oh, I can approach it this way. I can approach it that way. And then you find out that you can approach it from an infinite amount of different ways. And as long as you have your lens open wide enough, you'll be able to see that different perspective. If that makes sense.
That made a lot of sense to me. I do not know if it made sense to other people, so I don't know if that's me being a bad
of course it made sense.
reading it, but I followed that flawlessly. Because I like to marinate on things. I like to stew things in my mind and try to hit it from every angle, and it's just the longer you think about an individual topic or a concept, the more that you allow. I don't know. I mean, granted, I smoke a lot of weed, so my brain tends to allow itself to be more wandery than, say, I don't know, other people's. But I empathize 100% with the concept of what you're doing. I think it makes you probably a better artist, to be honest.
I do believe it does.
Like, but not just that. Like, there's a depth and a consistency to how you speak that like transcends time, right? Because you sounded like this in that 2013 video. I'm going to assume that as life has gone on, that you're a pretty consistent.
I can testify that he sounded like that in 2000.
So with that, it's like the only way to maintain like that sense of self within the adapting world.
99 in 2000.
Because that means you evolved with the world. It's the only way that you could be yourself in the current world, and you can even hear it in your music. It's amazing.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I was laughing at what Flacko. I mean,
I felt that
Flacko was saying, like, this is who we like. The things that shaped me, and I've grown. Like, so we was gonna get back into the high school situation, but like the things that I've experienced is what made me. I did not have the connection to hip hop like some people did. Some people grew up in a different thing where they were battling. Like, I think in middle school I wasn't battling, but in high school, that's where I started my. I've always had music in my life, but I think that high school was where the spark came, and that's where I bumped into different people from different places. I don't think, like I went to certain school not far from my middle school, which was at the time like a school for being a doctor. Because when I was younger, I wanted to be a doctor because I thought that's what I had to be. And by doing that, I ended up in a school that was predominantly, females. So then I'm coming into the school, trying to be a dude in a spot that's like predominantly females, but at the same time hormones kicking in and trying to be like, a cool person, but at the same time smart as fuck, but trying to hide the smartness because I wanted to make sure I had that edge so I don't get, bothered by people. And then on top of that, there's an underground thing happening because Stretch and Barbito pops off when I'm in high school. When I'm in high school, that's when Stretch and Barbito's popping off. That's when the late night radios is when you're listening to hip hop. That's when I get to start going, okay, my first album was Young MC. And when I tell people that in high school, they're like, yo, that's what you had first? I was listening to this. I was listening to that. And I was like, damn, I was way behind. So then I started doing my homework and catching up. And then going back to, public school or elementary school, that's when I started the beating on the table. And we'd be beating on the lunch tables because somebody needed rhythm while somebody was rapping, and I didn't have the rapping skills yet. So the cats that did rap, I was just doing the drums. So I was in that circle. So I get in that circle, and when I'm in that circle and I'm beating on the drums, I say, yo, hold up, I think I can do this. I was never thinking about writing. Never thinking about doing like that part. I was just happy to be there. It's like I feel like I'm in a movement. Then I'm in a school and I'm learning the system, because mind you already, and I'm not saying learning the system of the school. I learned the system of how to carry yourself in New York City, or how to carry yourself in the hood, how to carry yourself during this culture situation where we're all going through this cultural phenomenon of the crack epidemic. So you have to learn how to navigate through that, because if you navigate wrong, either two things is going to happen. No, three, more than multiple. There's an infinite amount of things that can happen. You're either on drugs, you're fucking, strung out. You're a person who's living a life with somebody who's strung out, so you can't trust them. So you have trust issues. You're living a place where, you can get robbed, or you're going to be a robber. Like it's either, like I said before, sink or swim. So you have to figure out how to navigate yourself. In high school, I started in middle school, but in high school is where it happened. And then in high school is where I got that bug for who I am now. And this is where all of that shit is shaping me to become who I am now.
That's really cool, though. So at that point in high school, you're banging on the tables, you're involved in the movement, and you're meeting all the people Flacko name dropped before. I don't know if you met Penn then. I'm just saying you start meeting more relevant.
No, none of those. So Penn and them, I didn't meet them. Like, it's sad to say. I don't know what school he went to at the time. I figured because he's a best side dude, and all the other cats they was in different areas. I didn't meet these guys until pretty much after I was done with high school. I met him when I was doing marketing and promotions. I met him when I was in the streets. I was so secluded by my moms and my family that I only knew Flatbush, which is where I lived, the little immediate neighborhood, parade grounds and all that other stuff, East 21st, Hawthorne and all these other places. And then I would go to school and I would come back. I wasn't allowed to go explore the whole world like that. So
I relate to that, though. That was a lot like what my high school was like. I wasn't allowed to do shit. Everything was supervised, planned out by my parents. I needed approval to go in. I remember the first time I got to go to a mall by myself with a $20 bill. I was 16.
I know you feel like it was balling when you did that shit, didn't you?
Yo, I was the best. And then my dad gave me a lesson on how I spent the money wrong. But for real.
We didn't have those lessons on how we spent our money wrong. Our lessons was like, yo, did you get in a fight? Okay, cool. Everything was cool. If you got in a fight, did you fight back? That's what our lessons were. Like, we had a different set of lessons on survival and how to get through
my dad's
situations.
lessons weren't all that great. It wasn't the best. I was not getting the blessed version of these lessons. I was getting a different version of these lessons, I promise you. But I'm hearing what you're saying.
Notes and shit.
And I'm not trying to compare it. I hear what you're saying, and the point you're making is mad valid, and it needs to be said still, because I don't think everyone is aware that like even having not the best father is still a father, still a presence in your life and whatnot, and that's very valid.
Well, it's very valid for you, but I didn't have that.
No, I mean, the point you were making is very valid. That's what I was saying. So I appreciate that. Nah, I mean, at the end of the day, that's kind of what I want this show to bring to light, is stuff that people should care about. And I think that's something people should think about more often, be aware of it as they assess situations, that they're not always thinking of all the details that don't often, like, you can't Google this stuff very quickly because you would never think to Google this kind of stuff unless somebody says it and you actually end up having a conversation like this.
There's no Wikipedia for none of this stuff. There's definitely no Wikipedia for the stuff that we used to do back in the days. There's no like education on that at all. And I think that's like a piece of history in hip hop that people are gonna find valuable in a few years or years from now. And I think that it behooves us to start trying to like document it, because we were actually there and we were a part of it.
Like, as a person who's listened to a lot of the music from New York, every conversation like this adds this like flavor of understanding to why it sounds like this, or why people have this attitude towards it. And you hear certain things and you're like, okay, but what's it really like? And so when you hear the what's it really like stories from somebody like you who does take the time to like share it, like, I mean, imagine it's probably not the funnest part of life to have to describe these situations. So I appreciate what you're doing.
It's actually very cathartic for me. To actually do this, it makes me feel. I mean, I gotta be careful how and what I reveal, because I don't like putting anybody in the situation. But I feel really comfortable exploring this place, because I feel like I don't explore this unless I was having a conversation with somebody. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like that's, and nobody really asks these type of questions. Like, I haven't had this question asked by the people closest to me. So like hearing these things right now, like it makes me explore these thoughts that I never thought I had. So I'm comfortable doing that.
Super cool.
Yo.
I appreciate it, Stills. Because not
and
everyone
most
does.
people are not open. I'm comfortable. Like I am who I am. I'm not scared to be who I am.
Not everyone.
And maybe respected. You respect it. If you don't, we can have a conversation about it on or off off the lines. Thank you.
I already know that though. That's why, like, you know what I mean? Holler at you.
So it's like, to me, it's like, I think these are really, like, I become a better person the more conversations like this I have. I'm really into this idea of stories as stats. So like stats are really great, but they're numbers. But if you can talk to 3,000 people and try to attach 3,000 faces to a number that says 3,000, it adds a lot more value to it. So it's like a compulsion.
In this world now, or you mean in real life?
This is just some shit that I try to view the world as. I don't know if it's a real thing. I made that up. Stories or stats. It's how I try to. It's like I look at this. I talk to so many people, and you're able to really just talk to all these people and learn all these stories. So if I can talk to like 1,000 people, imagine the context that you get added to when you look at stats in real life. You don't get that when you just look at numbers. The news doesn't talk about this. You don't get this anywhere unless you have the opportunity to talk to people.
Yeah, you know, I was I can't remember who said it to me, and I would love to, but there was a person who told me like, oh, actually I do remember, Ryan Leslie. I sat down with him for a minute, and he said something. He's like, don't reward the people that you think are paying attention to you. Reward the people who are actually paying attention to you. Let's suppose so online I can have, let's say, anywhere from 500 to a couple thousand hits on one of my videos or something like that. That doesn't determine who I am. The fact is that the people who write in the comments, those are the people I pay attention to. If I only got 50 people in my comments and I got 1,000 and something views, the people who get rewarded are the people who's talking to me in my comments. The people who get rewarded are people who are actually paying attention to who I am. I can have 1 million people paying attention to me and it looks good on paper, but I don't need those 1 million people because those 1 million people are not spending their money with me. They're not taking care of. They're not actually appreciating the art that I'm presenting to them. So I would rather focus on, if I had 1,000 people paying attention to this right now, if there's 100 people in the chats that are talking to me, I would rather focus on those 100 people than those 1,000 people who are just watching it. Like, let's talk, let's have a conversation because I'm open to it. I want, at this time in my life, I'm open to it. I want to do things where we can, if I mess up on something, I shouldn't be canceled for it. I should be given a chance to be educated on it. And then after I'm educated on it, then we can move forward and we can figure out a way to understand each other. Just because I'm educated don't mean I'm going to agree with you. But if I do agree with you, then we can move forward from there. If I don't agree with you, we can move forward from there. There's the two places where I don't agree with you. We don't have to speak to each other anymore. But if I do agree with you, if I do understand where you're coming from, we can have an understanding that maybe I don't understand what you're doing and you don't understand what I'm doing. You just have to be constantly focused on the people that are paying attention to you and the people that you are paying attention to. I know that sounds like I'm speaking in circles. I don't like that shit.
Nah,
you're not. You're pretty
you're
clear.
not at all.
Like it's the kind of thing where it might like come off like you're speaking in circles because it's not simple things to explain. Because like we don't have great metaphors yet for this as a culture or society to make it. So it really is like, you got to follow the numbers of what you're saying. But if you break it all down and stay invested in the people with the right energies around you. That's what I took from what you said.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I'm talking about.
Yeah, I took that. But I like the way you describe it. Like Flacko said before, it's a little bit like being at a movie, listening to you speak about stuff. And I really appreciate that. Like your tone of voice, all of it, it's wonderful. And you have acting experience, so you did. You literally said that earlier. Yeah, I have a pretty good memory for this kind of thing. But it's all good. So in high school, you're going through that part where basically your life is kind of sheltered, but you're exposed to it more, and you start getting the bug of it a little bit more. And then I guess high school ends and you get more freedom at that point.
Well, in high school, that's when we started listening to, like I said, Stretch and Barbito. So it was Stretch and Barbito. We started listening to it, and my friends, like, we would stay up and we would set up a situation where Stretch and Barbito, I think, was from either 11 or 1 to like 5 in the morning. It was like 1. I feel like it was 1. And we would, So we do like 1 o'clock, and then we would I would do 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and we would have the tape recorder where you had to tape it for half an hour, then flip it. And I would sneak and do that. And then my friend would do from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And then we would switch the tapes and we would listen to different music. And that's where I really got exposed to different rhyme patterns. I got exposed to some of the classics. Like, I mean, like if you listen to like, some of the best people came through with Stretch and Barbito. And that's how I started working on rhyme flows. That's where I figured out I wasn't exposed to Rakim, because remember I was listening to Young MC and I was exposed to that guy. And then when I started listening in high school to Run DMC, and well, I was exposed to Run DMC, but I was exposed to, because they wasn't as heavy and they were like more, I hate to say it like that, but they were like the more popular people, and that was okay for me to listen to. But Rakim and Big Daddy Kane and being able to catch their rhyme flows, I used to write in high school their lyrics in a rap book, in a fucking composition book, because I wasn't able to grasp everything they were saying. And then as I did that, I was able to read it and then really understand what they were saying. And that's what showed me how. I mean, it was because of Malcolm X, when he would go down and write when Sister Muhammad would tell me in the middle school how he would write down words and he would understand the definition of it. That made me go and write down Rakim lyrics, made me go and write down Big Daddy Kane lyrics, Slick Rick, like whoever was popping at the time, LL Cool J, just to make sure that I had a grasp of everything that they were saying. And by doing that, it gave me a grasp of the English language and how they would use words to paint pictures and manipulate the rhythm that they were hitting. Because remember, the message I was hearing is but for now I'm hearing so I'm hearing drum patterns and how they're doing it. So when I approach a song, depending on the mode that I'm in, I might approach it as a drum player, a trumpet player, a saxophone player, a flautist, if you would say that correctly, a violinist. Like, I'm always figuring out how can I ride a beat that somebody gave me in a way that when you hear it, it's something that, one, you've never heard before. Because, there's only about an exponential amount of notes that you're going to hear. You can hear the same 8 notes in a certain way, but you have an infinite way of playing them that will put you in a different space than everybody else. It's like saying we all have the color blue, but if you use a different tint of blue, it'll stand you out. Picasso, anybody else that we're doing, Star City or Peso or whoever the hell we're doing with in the back. You know what I mean? So it's how you want to paint the picture and how you want to do it. If you listen to like Shock G, I remember him saying the way that Tupac would ride certain beats, it would be the way it'd be like a trumpet hitting it, or it'd be like and Rakim would say that he was a saxophonist at one point in time in his life, and he wrote it like a saxophone person. So that's where I learned, by listening to Stretch and Barbito, listening to all these guys, how to understand music and how to write it.
So basically, you took high school kind of as an opportunity to learn how to write while you were there.
In hindsight, yeah, of course.
And you weren't really performing much. You were just kind of acquiring the knowledge and honing your skills, kind of not as publicly. Or were you rapping at this point?
Oh yeah, I started rapping. In high school, I started rapping, and there, that's where I learned if it was a flop or not. And then I learned that I have to have that same courage that I had when I was a younger kid to stand in front of people and present something to them, and they might not like it. They might like it, they might not like it. So either way that they would do it, I was okay putting it out there to them. I wasn't scared to do it. I was ready to jump out the window and see how I'm gonna figure out how to land as I'm going down.
That's dope. So were there any shows, or was it more of like a casual in the halls kind of thing?
It was in a whole, but you know what it was? It was a status thing, because the fact that I was smart, I was hanging out, I started drinking and smoking around that time in 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, and I was able to rap, make songs. It showed that I was a little bit fearless, and I was one of those guys who stood out as this guy is the cool guy. I was on a basketball team. They didn't have a music program. I was a dental assistant, so I learned how to make fronts. I learned how to make teeth for people who needed to have teeth made, and I had a certain. It gave me my confidence to be who I am, and not be scared to take a chance, and through that, it shapes the man behind the suit.
Man, that's amazing. I like that. So I guess at that point, then you finish high school, you go through that. I don't know if there's anything else that was in high school that you want to share before moving on to the post-high school times.
Not much. Like, I mean, school was like, that's where like I met the people that like I said, like I met a couple people in middle school that are still friends today. High school, I met people that are still part of my life right now. Like I met, my delegator crew, my DLG Republic people who are still making music and doing beats, and they're working behind the scenes doing beautiful things. I met, my Sleepwalker cats when I was down with Sleepwalkers, and that's what made me want to get into the music business. And we're gonna go into that after high school with Flacko. Ah, God damn it! I'm sorry. What am I supposed to say? I'm supposed to say. I'm supposed to say, yeah, Dutch Vega and all that other shit. But like,
say whatever you want.
But
call me Ray.
Yeah, I don't put that gov out there, but
nah, it's all good. I put it out there all the time myself.
It's just that, like these are people that I can actually have a beautiful conversation with, i.e., right now, and we are actually talking some real things that happen that hopefully this is archived properly, that somebody can learn something from,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, definitely.
That's why I wanted to. That's why, like I said at the beginning, you had left out and then you came back, and I was doing the breaking down of like why we do this series together. You know what I mean? And it's just like, yo, I want to get to know everybody that I know's story, because I know that when I did the interview with Holden, I was just like, yo, why is it this is the first time that I've ever documented any of this in the world ever? This is absurd. But like, it doesn't matter. What really matters, like, crying over the spilled milk ain't gonna help me none. What's gonna help me is like getting some doing with it, And immediately when we started like doing interviews, I was just like, yeah, I want to interview the people who I know, who I find extremely interesting. And I want them to be asked these same questions that Holden was asking me, that made me talk about things that I'm like, why is that I never talked about this before? Like, so more.
Yeah. And I'm just really curious and learned along the way that everybody's interesting. So it makes it pretty easy to just kind of talk to everybody.
As long as you have a willing ear, that's what makes them interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the longest lessons I ever learned in my life. But once I learned it, it helped a lot to realize that everybody's interesting if you're willing.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, no, it's honestly like everything about this conversation has just taught me a whole bunch. Like, it's the kind of thing where often I don't really reflect it well after, but I think about these conversations after, and I like stew on them, and they kind of like build into the next one. So everything that gets said, it's like, maybe I don't know how they all tie into it, but it definitely adds to my context of life. And you're very interesting.
Even me, definitely same. I feel the same exact way. Like, I feel like as we've been like sitting here week after week talking to everybody, I'm just like, every time I take something away from each conversation that I'm like super applicable to my life right now,
Yeah.
So
like,
blessings, yo. I'm blessed. I'm
gonna tell you this right now, yo. I love you, motherfuckers, yo. Thank you. I've just met you for the first time, Holden, today, but Dutch already knows I love him. Vega knows I already love him.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna let you guys know that there's nothing but pure energy amongst me at all times, and I try to keep it as positive as possible, begging for you not to make me go negative.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next?
So yeah, what comes after high school?
Fucking life, yo. That's what came after That's what came after fucking high school. Fucking life, nigga. That shit got crazy after. Yo, So I go, what are we doing, man? I feel like this is like an autobiography of K.Gaines and some shit like that.
Yeah.
It's a little bit what it
So
is.
yo, I get points on the fucking book when y'all put it out if my shit gets in it, just so y'all know that, right?
Yo,
Um,
you already know.
I'm in high school. I hang out with my boys in the hood. You know, I'm getting a little bit of freedom, working. I'm doing, my little 9 to 5, not 9 to 5, but like, working, for whatever I got to work for, trying to make a couple bucks, delivering newspapers, fucking working at Pathmark, whatever I can to make a buck to help my family. Because now we're getting past that era of the crack epidemic and we kind of moving out of it, Then we're dealing with the other epidemic or the pandemic that we had to deal with, right? So surviving that, we moving on. Now I'm past high school, and because we're in such dire straits, I'm thinking, hey, it's not good. I can go to college right now, but I can't go too far because I think I need to help my family. So I help my family doing what I got to do, and I'm still in the hood. There's nothing much that changed. I'm still pretty much focused on taking care of my family because I'm the oldest brother. And I got to take care of my younger siblings, hold down things at the fort from when my moms can't be around. So I'm going through that. So I'm like, okay, cool. I have this thing. What I'm going to do. And every kid should have this. It's like going to college, but I wasn't able to go to college, but I had to figure that shit out in the hood. What the fuck am I going to do? Had no idea what I wanted to do. I know I wanted to make music. For some reason, I felt like because high school sparked me, because listening to Stretch and Beatles, talking about, comparisons of Redman to, Buckshot Shorty, because they both dropped albums around the same time. And I was exposed to one and other people was exposed to the other. And then come to find out Buckshot didn't live far from where the school I was going to. And then I finally met him, and then people in the neighborhood and just different Crown Height areas, Flatbush situations, right? Now it's like, what the fuck do you do with your life? I have no idea. Go and do it. Figure it out. Somehow, a dude in my neighborhood, he winds up rocking with my cousin. His name was General.
Word.
Only certain people know who General is.
I know who that is.
In New York City, when poster board, before it went worldwide, poster boarding went crazy, right? Before it went crazy, General, for whatever reason, had to do some time. Comes out, happens to meet my cousin. They love each other, whatever. He was a fucking hood dude who would fucking put on for the neighborhood. He would do basketball tournaments. He would find a way to sponsor him. Whatever he had to fucking do. That shit caused him a problem. This motherfucker comes out of jail, and I'm at a point in time when he comes out of jail that I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I see him walking one day with a fucking little shopping cart behind him. And the shopping cart has nothing but posters in it. It's like stacked up. They're not stacked up like the long way. They stacked up in boxes like this on top of each other. He got and he just walking with it. He looked like he's struggling walking with it. And he pulls out 2 posters. Bang, bang, bang. Bang, bang, bang. Staples it. I'm like, yo, what you doing? He's like, yo, I'm putting up these posters. Now here goes my musical journey. I still wanted to get in the music industry. I wanted to be a rapper because I'm in high school. What you doing? I'm putting up these posters for this music, for this record label. What label? Doesn't matter. It could be Sony, it could be Def Jam, it could be whatever. This motherfucker just bang, bang, bang. Bang, bang, bang. Putting it on the pole. Bang, bang, bang. Bang, bang, bang. Putting it on the pole. I said, yo, that looked pretty easy, yo. You want help? He said, you want to help me? I said, yeah, is money involved? Because, I'm young. I'm trying to make money. He said, nah, there's no money involved. But if you do this, I promise you get plugged into it. He's like, you want to rap, right? He sold me the dream of rapping. So, yeah, I want to rap. He said, yo, you can learn the industry if you do this. I'm going to plug you into the matrix. You're going to get into this. Bang, bang, bang. That's me. Bang, bang, bang. I'm bang, bang, banging all over the fucking city.
Bang, 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 by the way, is like a stapler.
That's a stapler.
I pictured it.
It's a pole. You know, it's a pole. It's
A
like
light pole.
yeah, it's a light pole, and I know that it happened in every major city in the United States of America. It wasn't just New York City. It's just that New York City was the most prominent
No,
because
I'm gonna say
no,
this right now. I don't mean to cut you off. I'm gonna give you a respect on this. The shit started because General went to a record label. He had somebody who had some dope shit. He goes into the record label. I was like, yo, I got some people that got some dope shit. The record label looked at him and was like, you don't know shit about the record label. We're not talking about you. You don't know about the music business. We're not talking to you. General goes and says, yo, why do you have so many, what are those, posters? He's like, yo, I got some people in the hood who would like these posters. He's like, so take some. He's like, yo, so but what are you doing with these posters? Because they look like they're just sitting there. They just look ancient. He's like, yo, we're not doing anything with them. They were taking money out the budget, making these posters, and just letting them sit somewhere and then taking them and then throwing them in a fucking garbage can. They wasn't even putting it out doing a promotion. General figured out, you take those posters because we see politicians in the neighborhood going bang, 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 vote for this asshole, bang, 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 vote for this asshole. He said, yo, what if I did that with the fucking music posters? He goes, bang, 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 with fucking Mary J. Blige, fucking whoever the fuck was out of
Mariah Carey,
whoever the fuck was
Eminem.
out, fucking Whitney Houston. He's taking whatever fucking thing they're doing.
Word. What he used.
He created his value within the music industry. They started noticing that in the neighborhood that he would post those posters up, they would get more recognition from these people. I don't know what their analytics was and how they figured it out, but they figured out that people were paying attention to this artist more. This guy literally started. I feel in my book, General's the person who started fucking street teaming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Street teaming goes around. Huh?
You're the only person. You're the 77th one I've done of these in my life now. You're the first person to really talk about street teaming to this kind of street teaming. So that's really fascinating to me.
Well, I talked about it too, but not like this. This man that is why I wanted him to be here. But yeah. Yes, I did speak about it when we were. So this is what I'm telling you. This is who I started with. This is where I got my start right here. I'll be honest. And his bang bang bang. Let me tell you something. They taught me bang bang bang, and then I started to bang bang bang. All right. And job being my first job out of high school, was the most. I learned so much in my life so fast there because it was just a different environment that nobody in my age group was. You know, there were lessons that I learned there that were like I remember. Our company, right? I'm gonna take a second here and tell you a story, right? From when back in the day when Gaines and me knew each other when we were young pups, okay? And I was extra young, and so one of the companies that we used to market and promote for was Martell Cognacs, and
bottles on bottles on bottles.
we used to go to a lot. They used to have a lot of club mixer events that we were at that we could drink for free, and I would get fucking sloshed. I was underage, getting sloshed in the club, way too sloshed. Then fucking throwing up outside the fucking van while it's moving. So now the van's got throw up on the outside of it, okay? The artists that we're promoting. And they have to somebody finally sits me West, Piles, sits me to the side.
Young West, yo. Fucking Young West.
West sits there and tells me, he's like, listen, just because it's free doesn't mean you have to take it, bro. And I was just like, facts. It was just I was taking too much advantage at too young of an age, drinking way too much of a heavy liquor, right? That I was just not built for at all in any way. But that's New York City. We grow up moving at a very fast pace, I think, you know. But I was blessed enough to have these young men in my life that were like a little bit older than me and like imparted knowledge on me that like took me across the rest of my like young man adulthood. And like it was like with that and my parents, I'm good. Life has not been very like difficult in any way, and it's because of all the knowledge that they gave.
Well, you know, like even then, like you know, so you got to remember, like even when we was dealing with each other, I was still searching for who I was as a person. Like I didn't find myself, and I thought that I was gonna find myself, but I didn't know. I don't know which way to move. I want to move this way because I want to get my pieces of art to fucking shine in it. But I didn't know who I was at the time. Like I still was learning. Like the industry was crazy. We were all young cats who most of us didn't have the influence of a father figure, and we were all learning together. Like I remember, like when I first learned the power of where you position something on a pole or where you put it to make sure that you can optimize a person's eye line. So I'm learning marketing and promotions now. Like now I'm learning marketing and promotions, and I'm learning how if you put it in the wrong place, a person won't even notice it because they look at a certain level. So now I'm understanding human nature and then doing it like, and this is all hindsight talk that I'm talking to you.
Right,
When I was doing it, I didn't realize that. I remember one time we went to a when we first was doing Tragedy Gaddafi's album.
Woo!
We was doing, what was that shit called? 25 to Life. When we first was doing that, we went to the Bronx and we was doing it under a train track, and we thought it looked dope under every single train track. And when we did it, there was like a crazy car crash where this guy crashed into like one of the, you know, like when there's like an above track train track, and he hit a thing, he hit like a pillar, and a pillar had nothing but Tragedy Gaddafi wanted posters all over it. And he hit it, and he was drunk as fuck. And when he got out the car, he spilled out and was like fucking like 224 packs of beers. And we was like, yo, dude, you better get out of here. And it was like a crazy situation, right? That happens. And we thought, yo, this is the perfect place for us to be there to fucking be putting up these posters. Our boss looked at us, Sincere Thompson. He was like, yo, why did y'all put the posters here? Nobody walks under here. Nobody drives under here. There's no traffic under here. Now you got to put it in a place where wherever you at, you can see it.
Huh?
Don't put it on an obscure block that only 5 people come down a day. Put it on a block that fucking 100 people come down a day.
Huh?
We said, okay, we hear you. So now we doing fucking highways on the West Coast, on the West Side Highway. We doing motherfucking posters over a bridge. We don't give a fuck where we putting these poster boards. Because now we putting it in high visibility areas. Oh, you think we playing games? General, the person who I feel started this whole motherfucking movement, got arrested for putting up Cameron stickers all over New York City. This is a Cameron sticker that was like a rainbow one. Like the question asks, who is Cameron? And they put that up on top of a billboard, and they covered the entire billboard. And because of that, they got sued. They knocked on my dude General's door while he was sleeping with his family, pulled him out on UPN 9 News. UPN 9 News at the time was like one of those cool things like Fox and NBC and all that.
Yeah, it's Channel 9. It was like mainstream news, you know, television, mainstream television.
Brought him out like he was terrorist number 1. They brought him out like they had him in handcuffs. Like, how dare you go over a BMW picture and painting with who is Cameron? He plastered the city. They made like 15, 20, 30, 40,000 stickers. He plastered the city.
This is what legend is made of, though. Like, this is like in New York City, like there's like this is how we were like. You knew people who were a part of certain campaigns, and you would see it and you'd be like, wow, like what, who did that? Like, what, how did they get up there? You know? And General getting up there was like, you know?
I feel it.
It was like fucking like we did Missy's a Bitch. We did Mary J. Blige. Hate to say it, but we also did fucking R. Kelly. We went on tour with GTA. We went on par with the
I
fucking
remember.
on tour with fucking Limp Bizkit. We did so much fucking beautiful things that exposed me to the world. And this is part of my after high school life. This is me living my life and going to figure out how to navigate through what I thought was the music industry. And like he said, we was like fucking going to like all these parties and we thought that was the cool thing to do. But I figured out, yo, there's more behind the curtains. So there's like the Wizard of Oz. You got like all here the glitz and the glamours, but behind there's work that has to be done. We were doing street promotion. So now we getting people from Virginia, that's like, and people from the South and people from LA. It's like, yo, we come to New York. We're going to send you some posters. We need to make sure that they're up. We're putting posters up everywhere. We taking a picture. This is before digital cameras and camera phones and all that other shit. We had to have the fucking scroll pictures. We had to take pictures and get them printed and send it back to these motherfuckers. This is the time. This is only the 90s, by the way. This is like 90s, 2000s. This is not like fucking, 1943, 1984. Shit like that. This is wild shit. Like to us, that's old. To these young cats, 1990 something is fucking old.
Yeah.
So we live in this life. So then I learned the music business. I learned how people navigate. I watched how people's energy moves. And the way their energy moves, I say, okay, cool. This is not something for me. I came into this game wanting to learn how to navigate through the music industry, but I figured out I don't need the industry to do what I got to do. We still making music, start making music, and then we transgress to where we at right now, where I'm actually recording music and making music and putting stuff out that people enjoy.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, I was just processing everything you said. Sometimes
that was a whoopie. That was like a whoopie, a curveball, a screwball pitch right there.
It just went from
during this time, mind you, but during this time, like when I'm in the streets doing everything I got to do, this is when I'm meeting Poison Pen. This is when I'm meeting all the people in my life. When I know that I want to rap. I'm with my group Sleepwalkers at the time. This is when we're cutting our teeth. This is in the time where we're doing shows. Like I'm working during the daytime. I'm at whatever parade is going on. I'm out there giving out flyers. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So who's in Sleepwalker? How did you get started with that? I'm not like. It was very hard to Google you, so I'm not as familiar with the other groups that you were in. So
I'm not as Googleable as most people. That's right, because I actually didn't put as much out there. But Google should have even if it didn't. I was down with Sleepwalkers. I was in a group. It was 3 of my bandmates that I actually met in high school, and we formed a group and we were working, and then we went our separate ways. After we went our separate ways, we go to a point where we decided to go solo, and after we go solo, now we're here where I'm at. Sleepwalkers is an integral part because during the New York era, we were probably one of the best groups that were moving, because they had people who had like a crew of people where they were like all separate individuals. But as far as crews, we were one of the doper crews that was moving. And we were doing a lot of shows, and at least in my opinion, we were doing a lot of shows, and we were doing justice to the people who was paying attention to us. Like they were like, okay, these guys got something to say and they're here to say it. That's how we moved.
Oh, that's dope. So how did you end up with the Kung Fu Bum movie? Short film.
Kung Fu Bum.
That to me was like, I mean, the music part.
Shit was fantastic.
You're clearly doing your
I love
thing.
that shit.
But then
I told you that before, though.
I'm on your channel and I come across that premiere video for it, which I'll be honest was another curveball, because you just don't expect to see that you're an actor person, and I thought that was just as interesting.
An actor person.
I mean, I don't know what the right words are for some actor.
No, actor. I like that. I'm actually, just so you know, that the reason I said that is because it's probably gonna end up in a verse where I'm gonna go actor person. I like that. I like the inflection of how you said it.
That's amazing. I appreciate that. That is one of the coolest things somebody said on one of these interviews thus far.
Word.
But like, how did that come to be? Because I watched it and it was incredible. The premise, it's deep too. It's not even a shallow little 5-minute thing. Like I liked it. It was fucking cool, and I just wanted to also know more about how that came to be because it's completely unrelated to your music, but it's also pretty. Well, it's not completely. I don't know. It's just really incredible, and it wasn't what I was expecting when I started looking into.
The Kung Fu Bum thing came up like so. So then we speak about the Sleepwalkers, like like we were doing a lot of stuff, and then we wind up breaking up. So we break up, and when we break up, we're at a place where once again it's sink or swim. Like what do I do next? How do I sink or do I swim? Like how do I figure out what I'm gonna do? So I hook up with these dudes who were part of the same. So mind you, there's a beautiful. At one point in time, like once from high school to the point of where we had Sleepwalkers, there's a beautiful bubble in New York City. There's beautiful people that's putting out great music. We got Fresh Daily, we got Homeboy Sandman, we got Picasso, we got Sleepwalkers. We rocking it. We got so many people. We got the whole Mickey Fax. We got so many like different people who like we got Poison Pen. Everybody's bubbling. The whole PH. Everybody's bubbling. The end of the week. This is a beautiful bubble in New York City that's happening where there's a culture of hip hop that's the world is underground, but to us it's just life, and we are just making music, we're doing shows, we're performing everywhere we can, and we're supporting each other. Like we're 100% behind each other, and it's absolutely beautiful. Something, I don't know what the fuck happens, but something happens where people start sectioning off, and then everything happens where I'm not with my group anymore, people are not with their groups anymore, but they're still part of the groups, and we still know each other, and this is where we're meeting each other, and everybody's like, okay, we respect your craft. Some people don't get respected, they go to the wayside. But the people who get respected, they keep on moving forward and they keep moving up. And it gets to a point where, everybody figured out that they have to live life outside of the music that they were doing. Some people decided to keep living the music life. Some people decided to live life outside of that. I was one of the people who decided to keep living life as a musician. So when the things went sideways, or when not even sideways, just askew with the people I was dealing with, I was like, yo, what do I do next? And I was worried about it because I'm always about not topping myself, but pushing my limit. If I was painting a certain way, I want to paint a different way after. I don't want to always be caught in the same box. And Two Hungry Bros was part of a crew, and they had some dope beats, and I said, listen, let's talk, and they were down for it. And it was supposed to just be like a couple songs while I was working on the album, and it turned into a full album, and that was the Rumspringa album. And I said, okay, what can I do to make myself stand out amongst these really great MCs that are just in New York? We wasn't worried about anybody else. What can I do to make myself stand out amongst these people? And Deep of Two Hungry Bros and Ben Boogs of Two Hungry Bros, there was a suggestion that some other people, I wanted them to shoot video. They was like working on some films, and they brought it to my attention, or they brought it to our attention about doing this shit called Kung Fu Bum, and they brought it up to us, and I was like, I'm 100% for it. Like my thing is, if you ask me to do something right now, and he was like, yo, I got this crazy film about a guy who makes glass and candles, and if you had a good enough story, I'm totally down for it. Like, just fucking do it. Like, let's not even think about it. And we did that, and we got Kung Fu Bum.
Man, it was so cool. I really appreciated it, even especially the flip where you flip around the pole. That was really fun.
But you saw that was the thing. But so the thing was with that is it was a short movie. Like what you saw was a clip that we did. Like so what you saw was there's a full movie. There's like a 30-minute movie.
I could not. I looked everywhere for ask Flacko if that was the whole thing, and he was like,
"I'm gonna download it."
That was the whole thing. That's all I got.
No, oh my word! So there's more of that, because.
So what happened was the guys who were doing a short film, and they liked the energy, and they was like, "Yo, want to do this short film? It's called a 24-hour film. So they call you right today. They'll be like, yo, you want to shoot a movie. Behind you, you have to have a pyramid, a fucking couple paintings, some Louis Vuitton shit or whatever the fuck that shit is behind you. Guess I don't know what the fuck that shit is. And
Yeah,
you
I mean, well, mine is my logo, but it's the Louis Vuitton essentially, right?
yeah. So whatever the fuck it is, right? They're like they might be like, we want to see you holding a bottle of liquor. No matter what it is, you have 24 hours to shoot the film. So they say, I want you to holding a candle. I want you to hold a fucking dragon or a fucking dinosaur. You have to incorporate that in the film. So we had 24 hours to shoot the film. We shot the shit. It was edited. We submitted it. We wound up winning a whole bunch of awards. These guys are phenomenal. They're called Deviant Children, fucking Chopstick Graffiti, fucking 200 Bros. They're the fucking architects of this shit. I just happen to be a player in it. And I was happy to do that shit. So when that happens, the accolades start going up. And as the accolades start going up, we drop the Rumspringa album. And that takes us to another level. So now Rumspringa is just like some wild man called the Wild Man Chronicles. It's like, we also had a movie that we was working on called the Wild Man Chronicles that was supposed to come out, but it didn't come out. But either way, we put music out that reflected the energy of me at that time. I was going through a frustration of not dealing with my group anymore, and I had to be solo, and I had to rely on myself, and I had a whole bunch of other energy. And then from there, we go into the next thing where we move into Take It to Elsewhere and all that other stuff.
Yeah, Take It to Elsewhere is a wonderful project. Like, just for real. But how did you... Okay, I wanted to know who made the beats. Was it all the guy that you mentioned on the first track that made the beats for that project? Because we were really...
Which one?
For Take Me to Elsewhere, I think.
Take It to Elsewhere.
Yeah. So for that album, you mentioned somebody's name that seems to be the producer on Opulence, and then the rest of the album plays through. And unfortunately, without finding it, I couldn't see credits. So we were curious who produced that, because everything on that album's production is like, it's beyond stellar.
So right now, what I'm at, so I got signed to Priority Records for a quick second, right? And I had this beautiful idea. Let me see how this moves. I got to check how this moves, all right? This is, for you guys, what is this right here? If I point this way, is that west or east for you guys?
I mean, that's your
no, what's for you?
I see, that's your,
on.
I think of it as your right hand, no?
Is it west or east?
West or east?
I'm trying to think for a second. It is no, hold on. It's east.
It's east. Okay, so boom. So for me, right, I have a north, south, east, and west.
Yeah, that's west. Yeah.
Oh, then it's west. Then that's west. Okay, I got all backed up. I don't know why I had that.
So I have these 4 EPs, right? I have this beautiful thing. I'm big into art right now. Like my new thing is an older adult. I'm collecting art, and I'm like art that's gonna appreciate and value. I have an east, west, north, and south album that reflects that region to open me up to those regions. So the Ticket to Elsewhere was my west album, but also the person who made the album, he's from Canada actually. His name is Maxwell Benson, and Maxwell Benson traveled the world. He's an ill photographer. He travels like shooting like some crazy stuff all around the world, from movies to pictures to just documentary type stuff. And he had this idea because he heard the drum and bass shit. Like that, I would say that people call drill. It's a little different now, but the drum and bass energy he brought to the table. And now I know it was West Coast because he lived on the West Coast, but it wasn't really West Coast. But it felt cool to do something different. So Ticket to Elsewhere was 180 of who I am as an artist. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to have a West Coast, East Coast, North, South, and within each album that you buy, there's like a puzzle piece in it that might be that piece of art behind me or the other piece of art behind me, and you have to figure out what it is, and it's a puzzle piece. And once you figure it out...
Yeah, I remember this promotion. This was incredible.
Once you figure it out, you would get a 5th album, but you would only get the 5th album. And the funny, crazy thing is, once I stopped dealing with Priority Records, I haven't re-uploaded my music. And now, during this NFT thing, it might be a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it definitely is.
I think I got something. So now the other four. So I have a total of 5 albums. It's called Bon Retour. You know, when you go on a voyage, you go Bon Voyage, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Now
correct.
I'm going to say Great Return. So the Bon Voyage means great
Mm-hmm.
voyage. Bon Retour means great return. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the fucking West Coast, East Coast, North and South, and I'm going to give you a fifth one. And they're going to form a puzzle. And once it forms that puzzle, and you figure that shit out, you're going to get a whole bunch of other different things. That's what I'm working on.
Yeah,
And I hate
man.
to tell it to everybody because I feel like somebody's going to fucking bite it as soon as I said it. But I don't mind.
I feel like it's like one of those things where there's probably other people working on similar ideas, to be real. But that is so fucking cool. Plus, it's already on the net. You've already put that out into the world. I was
And
able to hear
besides, on
something
top
about
of
that
that,
before.
it's one of those things where like most people that would want
Yo,
to
and it
copy it don't
couldn't
even
do you.
understand the amount of work that goes into it.
But it's more than
So,
that. Your puzzle is gonna be something I personally want to try. Whereas I don't think just because somebody does a puzzle, it's cool. Like, I heard your music, I've heard you talk, I see the depth in what you bring to the table. It's not some like exclusive shit, really. You're either gonna get it or you don't, and then the people that want to do it are gonna come do it. So even if 100 other people take that same idea, firstly, I don't know that they could make puzzles as cool as you. I really think you'd be good at that, to be honest. I mean, you thought this whole campaign up, which is like the fucking smartest shit ever. But like, I don't know, like I could see how a label would just blunder it, and it would be like they'd have like a problem where like everybody figures it out and then it's not cool. Whereas I feel like your puzzle is gonna be hard.
But that's why I'm no longer a priority. Like I didn't like at first I was like really gung ho thinking that it would be great to have a label behind me. So not having a label behind me makes me like I thought like yo it validated me, and then after I figured out that it didn't validate me because everything I was doing on my own. I figured out I just got to figure out a bigger machine on how to do it on my own, because they were a beautiful group. Like they nurtured me. They gave me some good and like advice, but I don't even know how to put it. Like I just realized that everything that was being done for me, I could do on my own. Everything that they were asking of me, I could have done on my own, and like that's why I got to re-upload it. But I'm like, do I re-upload it on streaming services which pays us like fucking disgusting pennies on a dime? Not even a penny on a dime. It's like I don't even know how you can go a thousandth of a penny. Like, but they're giving us like hundreds of a penny on a dime, on a penny rather, not even on a dime, but a penny on a penny. And God, that sounds whack saying that. Like, these guys are not paying us anything. Fuck these motherfuckers. We got to deal with them, and they're not giving us any money, and they're making billions of dollars on us. Why the fuck do we have to care about them? And now we have found a new way to not care about them. Yeah. They're going to find a way to destroy that, but in the meantime, we can make some money off of it. All I care about is doing my shows, touring, and doing what the fuck I got to do to bring my energy to the people.
Right.
If they don't understand that, if a label won't be able to understand that, I don't want them.
I definitely think it's a time where you can bypass labels if you have the kind of spirit you bring to the table. Yeah. You're willing to do the work though, and that's the
I don't think labels are like at all necessary anymore. Like it's a necessity for like artists that want to be doing certain amount of numbers and hitting a certain plateaus of legions of fans. A label's not really necessary outside of that. You know, you need the machine for those things.
But you get those legions of fans, right? But at what cost? At what cost? They give you $1 million, but out of that $1 million, you might, if you're a good person who knows how to budget, you might walk away with $350,000 after paying everybody that you have to pay, because they're going to get paid first. And if you know how to handle your taxes and all that other stuff, you'll be able to write it off. We can do it ourselves, but we have to be comfortable joining together. I love the movement of the South. I think that the way the South move is absolutely insane. How not even insane. It's actually beautiful how they are willing to work together and not crab in a barrel each other. They don't want to pull each other down. They actually work together and push each other up. I'm willing to do like right now during the pandemic. I hate that I can't tour right now. Like touring is not my money maker because I got a business outside of that. But I would love to tour just to give this energy that I'm giving to you guys right now on a regular level.
If I can just ask you on that energy, so I'm pretty sure I saw you worked with Rascast at one point, and Rascast did a show in Alt Space VR last night that was gated. So they had tickets. It was like $10, and people showed up to the virtual reality show, and there were ticket sales made. I don't know how it went, but I know that it was last night that it was supposed to happen. And how do you feel about that whole universe?
I'm very uncomfortable with it because me performing, that means that I have to change how I perform. So like Rascast is a fucking legend to me. Like he's one of those people I studied his lyrics. Like for me to be able to work with him was a milestone in my career, and it happened through the person who was, who did the production on the beat, because I didn't know him prior to that. Like my guy did, Maxwell Benson, and that made it work. But when I was able to sit down with him or talk to him, like he's always cordial, he's always good, which is it teaches me as an artist how to interact with other people. So when the whole digital thing is cool. Like if I was to do a digital show, I would have to adjust how I perform because I have to worry about the platform of how it conveys through the computer, how it conveys through whatever's filming me. My live show is totally different. I have my live show is a different energy. Like I respond to the people. So for me to have to do a show digitally, it's weird because I don't have anything to feed off of.
Yeah, you definitely have a bunch of little avatars with hands. It's not exactly
that's
not it.
I'm still gonna perform how I'm gonna perform. I'm still gonna perform like I'm in my rehearsal studio.
Yeah, I understand what you're trying to say though, because that's what I always thought about it, which is that like it's gonna be hard to replicate like the genuine energy that you feel inside of a concert, inside of a crowd, a show. You just need that personal interaction,
I don't think that it's gonna last long. I think that it's gonna, by the end of the year, we're gonna have some concerts happen. I heard LA is opening up already, so that's a good thing. I might try to figure out how to get out there and do some shows, but I do believe that, like right now, my dude Leo Coltrane and my dude Crew Jones, who did that exclusive that I sent to you guys, they are doing something in New York City. It's called busking, and they are going to like random places, and they're just playing music. As long as you're not amplifying the music, you're going to be okay. Like if you amplify the music where you have like speakers and microphones, that you might get shut down. But these guys are just going different places and jamming, and it's weird because I have a rehearsal. The rehearsal studio is where I feel comfortable rehearsing my music. But now I get to rehearse in front of some people that I've never met before who are actually paying attention to what I'm doing. It might be 10 to 15, 20, 100 people. Doesn't matter what it's going to be. When I'm performing, they're focused on me, and I get to feed off of that energy. But if I don't have that energy, I'm okay. If there's one person watching me, I'm okay with that one person watching me because I can work out my mistakes and my routine, and it would still translate to me in my brain as a show. It's almost like having like a phantom limb, and you got to just rub it a couple of times to make you feel like you have it. Like if you lost a limb or something like that. So me performing in front of one person, it makes me more comfortable performing in front of 1 million people if I'm performing in one person. To me, I equate it the same.
I totally get that. Honestly, I'm not really sure how I feel about VR performing either. I know that with Twitch, if I see the chat moving, I feel that energy like 80% of what it is to be on a stage in front of people. It's not like 100%, but seeing words gives me a sense of like emotional connection to the audience in a way that otherwise, I wouldn't like get from the VR thing. So I completely empathize again with what you're saying with that. Like it makes sense to me. I was just curious.
I wish I knew that I knew about the RAS schedule. I would have loved to see it because I love to see how people adapt to the performing arena that we live in. I would love to see that. I would love to see how he would. Is it on YouTube or what is it on?
Honestly, I'm at the point where I have to go look it up, but I promise when I figure it out, I'll send it to Flacko, or I can message you on Instagram and send it to you when I find it.
Awesome.
But yeah, basically, I just know it happened, and I know the platform it happened on because I looked into it a while ago. But it was goofy. I did an open mic one time, and it was like, it was awkward as fuck. That's the best way I can put it. It was fucking weird, but it was a weird in like a Star Trek cool kind of way. So it wasn't like a bad
I was about
weird.
to say that.
So like
I think the awkwardness is
like,
good. It's another way to put the artist on his toes.
Because where I can't see the people, you actually see these little avatars and these little emojis kind of popping. Sorry.
Dama is saying in the chat, like, nah, the EOW Zoom is the closest you get to that because you get to see 30 people in a gallery view bobbing their head and reacting.
Yeah.
You
That's
see
the
them
thing,
up close. You're not looking at yourself and reading. You see reactions in real time. I love it.
Which I agree with. We get that on the Zoom, and I feel that as well. But what I remember from the VR performance is the avatars were bopping, and it's not like it's gonna take a bit of mental gymnastics to translate that shit into crowd reaction. But I think there's ways to get the feedback. Not necessarily the same thing, but that's what I took from the experience. So I'm very curious as well. That's why I was curious if you were into it. So when I find out what more happening, but I know this one dude is effectively popping onto all the VR apps to learn how to perform in them. And I thought that was like super cool.
I don't think we're gonna. I do believe in this world. I do believe in this world that George Carlin type of thoughts that whatever we're going through right now, we're gonna get through. But I do believe that we have to deal with the virtual world because there's a lot of people who don't want to come out, so we're gonna have to be able to perform for that. And I'm gonna have to adjust my performance style for that. But my performance style is for the stage. Like I'm a performer. Like you have. I don't know if you found anything online where you was able to see like my performances, but I have pure energy on stage, and I want to be able to relate that to the people who are watching. And so I have to figure out a way to do that. And I think I have another way. And I got a feeling that things are going to open up again once as I said earlier, that we're going to get to there. And I want to bring that to a forefront of how to be able to perform live while knowing that other people are probably watching me remotely. That's a lot. That's a lot of extra work for me to deal with.
It's very stressing. I mean, I went through this whole process of migrating to live. I wasn't doing this live at first, and then it was it's strange, but I don't know. I'm watching you in real time puzzle it out. It's so cool. Like, it's so cool to watch your brain work in real time like that. I'm not gonna lie. Like, you're just like trying to like process all the variables, and you're like, nah, this is what it's gonna be. But then you're like thinking it through, like you could figure it out. That is so cool to see happen.
Well, the thing is like when I watch people have interviews or they speak with other people, if they're not working it out as they're talking, and they have a finite view, to me, in my opinion, it's wrong. Like you should be constantly thinking of what can happen next. I'm always looking at a step ahead, but at the same time, I'm trying to remain present. If that makes sense. Like I'm 1,000 steps ahead, and I'm still trying to be here. I know what album I'm going to put out next. I know what thing I want to talk about next. I know what thing I want to project to the people, but at the same time, I still want to remain present and still be able to enjoy what I'm going through. Which is what's happening right now. I'm enjoying this moment.
You sound like one of the most balanced people I've talked to in a long time. It's just like level.
I wish my mama told me that.
Wow.
So Dama said something else. So hold up.
Hit me up if you want any input, because I've been tweaking the Zoom shit, and I think someone like you can. I don't see the rest of the chat because
really excel just as well in the virtual space. It's all about the light and lack of sound delay.
That part is the major thing. Sound delay. I was looking at some on YouTube about how they can like they're fine tuning how you can actually have a talk with somebody and there's no delay. That delay is what causes the problem. And if it's a millisecond, if you can break it down to the billionth of a second, it'll make it a lot better. Dog, you're right. I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah, because I don't know. Like, let's say you were on Twitch and you were doing Gaines time on Twitch, whatever you thought you would do. I'd probably watch that. I'd probably like be right there, soaking up whatever you were doing, because you do something nifty.
I do believe that I'm a nifty human being. I do believe that I'm a work in progress. I do believe I'm not perfect. I do believe I make mistakes. I do believe that I'm all about pushing the culture forward and making sure that my children and the children after them are better off than I am. I'm always thinking about how we can make this stuff a little bit better. You know what I mean? Like the fact that you guys actually invited me to do this, I'm humbled. I didn't even think anybody wanted to hear from me, and the fact that you guys actually wanted to talk to me, that makes me feel good, because I haven't been putting out any music in a while. I've been focused on other things, making sure that I can take care of the family, especially during this pandemonium time. I didn't think that anybody cared about what I had to say, and I appreciate it.
Well, like, to me, this is like, wow. Like, I feel humbled that you're sharing so much of yourself with us. Is more my feeling on the situation. Like,
I can tell you something right now. You motherfuckers got more than anybody got out of me. Like, and I like that. And it's because I have such a beautiful relationship with this human being, aka motherfucking Flacko Dutchie.
I like that. I'm gonna keep that Flacko Dutchie. That's a good one.
New one. Another one.
Flacko Dutchie.
Nah, but
another one. Flacko Dutchie.
I'm
with it. I like it.
I'm just like humbled, like listening to the way you react to things and just your whole life. Like, your energy is proper, like on that.
Yeah, no, man.
And your thing is I haven't met you in life, but I can still kind of feel it through the Zoom, and that's kind of weird, no?
Yeah, I mean, no, it's not. To me, it's not. I think that we actually I think we're actually having what some people would call an actual conversation. It's not like there's no. I'm not tethered to anything, and I'm not bothered by how you would judge me. Like, I'm comfortable talking to whoever I'm speaking to at this time. And right now, because I got a good feeling, it's because I'm dealing with fucking Flacko Vega. You know what I'm saying? Like, a new name, Flacko Vega. So, like, that's why. This is family to me. Like we grew up together. Like we cut our teeth together in this world. So he's a good human being, and I'm comfortable speaking with him. And I tell you this: outside of this, you'll get my number. You'll get you more than welcome to talk to me about anything and anything that's on your mind. I'll walk you through whatever I understand about the hip hop culture. I'm not an expert on it. I'm kind of up there, but I don't think that I know everything. There's still a lot for me to learn, and I'm 100% appreciative that you chose to have me to be on this.
I'm just a person that is grateful that you'd bother to talk. Like, from my perspective, it's more like I come from Montreal, right? Like, we like almost.
How you say Montreal again? How you say
so
the
I
word
say
Montreal?
it like, so Montreal is how I would say it, and then the other way I said it was the French way. So both things are real. So Montreal, I don't know. I don't even know if I'm saying it right now, because I don't know how other people say it here. Yo, I'm pretty sure I'm saying it right. Like, because we would go like Muntree in like some slang shit. Like, Muntree is something that people would say. So I think it's Montreal.
Montreal. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that would be like the right way. That's the English way. And then, so growing up here, it's like, New York's like the mythical mecca of fucking hip hop. Like, that's it's almost, I've never been to New York City. Like, I've never, the farthest I've gone south is like, in this continent is Plattsburgh. So that's as far into New York I got. That like border town that has the stores for Canadians to come across and buy some cheap shit and some Slim Jims, which aren't really sold here.
I'll mail you some, yo. I'm gonna mail you some. Yo, hold up. Okay, we gotta get back to this. Dama, what the fuck are you doing?
That was just the randomest shit on camera all the time. It's a distraction.
She be getting dressed to like go out, or she be like cooking. She be like, it's like sometimes she be cooking. Sometimes she be cooking with the music, literally.
She ain't cooking, yo. She about to go out, yo. That's date looks right there, yo.
She has us on the cam and muted, and she'll be like,
I want to hear you, Dom. Recording. Dom about to get ready for a date.
Huh?
You about to get ready for a date?
It's always a date. It's always a date when I'm around.
That's what I'm talking about. How you been?
I've been good, man. I've been chilling, kicking it out here in Austin. About to go to next Friday, and then going to Puerto Rico after that.
Wait, when are you gonna be in Puerto Rico?
The 21st.
Oh, you get there the day that I leave, or you get there the day after I leave.
Really?
Yeah, I'm there the 15th to the 20th.
Yeah, that's easy. We should have planned this.
First of all, I think you need to call him and extend your day, yo. Y'all got to see each other, yo. That'd be beautiful.
Yeah, that would be sick.
You're gonna be like this. I'm gonna be like this all up in your Zooms. I'm gonna be like doing deodorant, brushing my teeth and stuff, like clicking my nose, like fixing my ears.
Yeah, but that's the charm of it all. Seriously?
No, Dama, get back on. Don't even try to go back to the other stuff.
No, but that's the charm of this shit, man. Honestly, like, the end of the week Zoom was a very inspirational thing for me. Like, I never got to experience end of the week in New York. I've never been to the city. I've never been to a pyramid club.
Yo. But you would go there and you would see the greatest human beings, the people that we all looked up to as hip hop people. You would see KRS-One, you would see Ice-T. That's some of the people that I think LL might have came through one time. Like, I would experience some of the greatest things. I would be on that stage and they would call me up as if I was one of the upper echelon people. Like, they was like, yo, Gaines, come on up and like do something. I would spit a verse and I was like not prepared and I freestyle and the freestyle would still do good enough. And then it was beautiful moments. I loved every moment of it. And then fucking a pyramid. What the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Yo, you seen that sign getting taken down? How sad was that?
The pyramid is done, yo. The pyramid where it was started from.
That was like that was how many years? 15 years they were there.
How do we buy it though? Like, what do we do? Are we collectively putting together? Like, what are we gonna do?
I say between all of us and all of the businesses that we all own and LLCs and all the business loans that we're eligible for, as because when you have an LLC, you're more eligible for bigger loans. You know what I'm saying? I think there's enough of us in EOW that have that can actually make it happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it's actually possible. We just need enough of us to actually want to do that. And then we'll all be like co-owners of, I'm talking like I'm like 100% able to do this. Like, it just totally depends on what my business credit is going to look like. But I think it's something that's actually possible. I think it would be the greatest thing ever if the people of EOW could buy the pyramid and just rename it EOW.
Yeah.
I mean, who's willing to invest in it? Shall we start a GoFundMe?
I think that'll. Oh, I didn't even think about that. I'd never be thinking about GoFundMe.
I think GoFundMe is an amazing proof of concept to garner our interest, right? Because if the GoFundMe does something, then everybody's going to look at that and be like, okay, maybe there's something here, and be more willing to go.
We would need somebody to go down there and talk. We got to get somebody down there to talk. We got to get somebody to go down there and talk to the guy that like
Julio, right? Julio's
down there. He's the one who showed me what it looked like on a virtual tour.
Send Julio down there to talk. Send Julio down there to talk.
Oh, that's serious. I didn't know that happened.
Yeah, man. Are y'all still streaming?
We are still
I got
streaming.
a little bit of ducats I'll put in. My fault. Yeah, we are.
We are still.
You know what's funny?
Yeah.
This is the perfect ending to a beautiful interview. I like this. This was like one of the most in-depth interviews I've ever had.
I'm grateful
I feel
that
like
you said that.
I feel like I can take this and use it for my my EPK or some shit like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
super fucking cool that you would even say that. Like, to me, that's awesome that you'd say that. I don't know. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, but hold on. I just want to tell Dama, stop stealing my DJ, yo. That's my guy.
Yo, first of all, I've been gave him back to you, okay? That's your job. I
That's your
started
guy.
DJing my damn self.
Yeah, I know. I love you, yo.
But
You
he's cool.
good?
He's cool as fuck, man. K.Gaines. I took him for a hot minute. Like I met him in 2016. I took him for like a solid 2 years.
I know you believe that, but you know, he was always here. He was
I know
like,
he was cheating.
He's like, I'm moonlighting with her, and I was like, you know what? That's a cool person. You can moonlight with her as much as you want. That's good. I was like, yo, just watch her though. She'll have you doing some weird shit. You're just cool.
Moonlighting at the Domino's Foundation.
She have you dressed up in like glow in the dark like clothes in the middle of the night, like you just that's for sure.
Yo, the things that we was doing was crazy. Crazy times.
Yo, I am so proud of you, and I love the new journey that you on. I love it. I love watching the progression. I love it. I love the last single that you put out. It's beautiful. I'm proud of you.
Thank you, bro.
And whatever I can do to promote it, I will always do it.
Thank you, bro. I really appreciate that, man. For real. And I love everything you do, man. So please keep me posted on everything you put out, because you know what I'm saying. Like you're one of my favorite artists, especially artist friends. You know what I'm saying? Like that's facts.
Love you.
Love you too, man.
All right.
This was dope. Dope interview.
So I appreciate everything about you coming through and doing this with us, Gaines. Just to like wrap it up for the sake of the video. Thank you all for watching, everyone, because all the people that were with us, that's amazing, because there are people who stuck it through this whole time. Same people commenting the whole time, watching it through. To me, that's also the most incredible thing is
shouts to everybody in the Twitch.
Yeah, shout out to everyone watching, and yeah, definitely make sure to follow End of the Week, to subscribe to the YouTube, youtube.com/ I think it's EOWTV.
Vice Versus Forever on Instagram.
And yeah, definitely thank you all for coming through. And on that note, definitely gonna make sure to hit up the raid, and we're gonna get that started. And then yeah, thank everyone for that.
Oh, Answer, you there?
Yo, somebody tell Poison Penny still owe me some Jameson, yo. Even though I drink this now.
Yo, I'm